My check. Right. Let's get the show ready. Problem I'll bring it live soon, everyone. Let me open my PDF. I will come back to the I should have reset my machine. I could have done that. Let's see if it works. All right, welcome everyone. Hey, this is your host, Rap Raymond. Don't forget to tell a friend we're live. Very important show today. Let me turn the fan off. Hopefully my machine won't blow up. All right, where are we? So let me see if I can get the PDF. So as we start every show, share screen. Yes, that's so far so good. Windows, yep. And here we go. Baby, yeah, this one. View and read mode. Yeah. Okay. Oh, let me actually go to the beginning. So we're going to start the show as always short, and we go through the PDF. So this is the 249th episode. So that's 249 times we have gone live to find solutions for the community. Isn't that fantastic? Sounds good. All right. So how do we start? Yeah. Don't forget to follow the Black Betterment Building Instagram page. And speaking of that, I actually need to share something. Let me put that there, as well as put this here. This is for the live. Big up, Brother Stanley from America. It's good to see you. There you go. Put the show there as well. And I'm going to start as we always start. We're going to talk about white supremacy, anti-black racism, and the Ma'afa. And we call that the triple tragedies. Sounds bad. It is. And those triple tragedies has contributed to what we call the double dilemma. And that is we are despised and we're disorganized. Oh, no. Very bad. But not to worry, everyone. There's a single solution. What is that single solution I hear you say? I'll tell you. It is Black Betterment. What is that? Well, it's a lifestyle of black people continuously helping black people. It sounds, very odd and strange, but it's actually a good idea. And this is a solution to the double dilemma. And we call this lifestyle Black Betterment. And we greet everyone as we start the show with the greetings of Black Betterment to all. There you go, Black Betterment. So when you come to the show, don't forget to say Black Betterment. All right. We tend to focus on black families, black economics, and black health. They're the triple triumphs that we focus on, but we go all over the spectrum. And yeah, so have I said? Yeah, I've said that. Good. So what else are we going to do? Okay, so also two things. We're going to play a video that's got a lot of swear words in it. Sorry about that, but it is quite late here, but probably not where you are. But we try to keep language as clean as possible, unless we're doing case studies, which we are doing, so we shall be permissible. But that is when you do jump on, please remember discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. The reason we say it is, unfortunately, when you are talking about topics amongst your community group, black people, that is, because of our history and stuff, it can get really passionate, and people could start, insulting each other without knowing. So sometimes we just try to make sure we have a bit of discipline, a bit of dedication, dignity, and discernment. And we then definitely say, try not to use derogatory language, more so descriptive. It's very challenging because many brothers and sisters, they grow up in environments where it's everyday kind of language. I'm not that I recommend that way of speaking, but I do say if you're trying to find solutions with black people, you might actually get an argument very quickly. So you want to make sure the words we use can minimize anxiety and minimize arguing. So let's use descriptive language. Oh, yeah. So what is today's topics? Today's topics are as follows. What strategies can we use to fix black ethnic conflicts? We discuss methods to synchronize black ethnic groups that publicly argue, and how to respect Juneteenth. We discuss the importance of Juneteenth and how to respect the holiday. Cool. So what do I need to do? I need to actually put that as a fix. Let me open that software here. So I'm gonna did I look at any videos last week? Because I had videos to look at, some really good ones as it goes. But actually, I've been rushing around, as I usually do, so that was my excuse. So I didn't actually even get time to download the intro videos. And let me just check if I've got any intro videos from last week. So what we normally do is we normally look at random videos and see if there's a Black Betterment perspective on those. And then we start the show. But I don't know if I actually got time to show last week. Let's see, let me check. I probably did.
The Mexican man wanted
no, let me see.
Black women want their hair western.
This is a good one. This was last week. It's more an analysis. This is a Europe, and we're gonna at some point.
Their hair westernized. Why did they want it western?
There's random stuff that comes, but this is a European lady. I think she says she's got a black parent somewhere, maybe a black granddad. I don't know. Who knows? Probably not. Probably so. Who knows? But let's look at what she says. While I tried to fix something else.
Black women shouldn't want their hair westernised. Why do they want it westernised? A black lady who's westernised.
See, what really pisses me off about these conversations is that, one, there's not a black woman on the panel, and two, this white woman speaks like she knows how to care for, or she knows how to grow our. I've spoken about this before, and I know that a load of people aren't aware that our hair texture is very fragile, and our hair could also break off if it's not in the right conditions. It is hard work. Every other day I have to be greasing my scalp. Every other day I have to be finding a solution that works for my hair. Some products don't work for my hair, so I wasted 12 to 15 pounds on this one product thinking that it's going to work for my hair. I can't really wear my hair out in winter. It will break the fuck off. I have to wear a silk scarf to bed because the pillowcases, the cotton pillowcases break my hair off. Our hair has to be cane rolled into certain styles because the oils from our roots don't travel upwards. It stays on the root, so the ends of our hair is dry. You would know this if you're a fucking black woman. So the fuck what? We want to wear long.
Yeah, the first woman, well, she, as far as I know, she's a white woman, but she did say in some video that she has a black granddad, a black, some, who knows what she's saying. But sorry about the language from the sisters, but she seems to be very frustrated.
Fucking hair, curly hair, straight hair, red hair, purple hair. No one gives a fuck. Leave us the fuck alone. Because when you're blowing up your lips, injecting your asses, putting on fake tan, getting big, enormous, giant boobs, yeah? Do we say anything? We say, live your best fucking life. That's what we say. When you want to dye your mousy brown hair, do we say shit? No. We say you look absolutely beautiful and carry on with our fucking business. We don't give a fuck. But you people seem to care about what the fuck we do. Why? Why is that? Why do you speak on us so fucking much? Whether we're natural or whether we're fake, let women express themselves how they want to fucking express themselves. There's other shit going on in the world than fucking black women's hair. Please, let it the fuck go.
Sorry about the swearing, family. And you know, one day we'll try to express ourselves without being too, too direct like that. But well, so many things are said, many things. But and before we start, there's been people saying they want us to cover black hair topics, and I think it's one of the things that it has to be taken very carefully. It's going to be led by black women today, and obviously the sister African goddess is asking. I'm not sure the young but this young woman talking as if black hair is a problem to care for. Yeah. So the thing is, this is the thing with the black hair is a very important topic, and we could approach it from many different angles. For one, it will have to be led by black women predominantly. But two, there's so much that needs to unpack. So one, there is the concept of non-black people talking about black hair, whether they're trying to disparage it or trying to give some kind of confidence. It should be taken as a backhanded compliment. Two, there's the understanding of black hair, where obviously some sisters might struggle to maintain certain things. Some ideologies of what is perceived your hair should be or shouldn't be. That can also tap into why certain things are done or not done, and also, you know, there is a frustration that black women once again are center stage for things they don't want to be center stage of. So it can be very frustrating. But ultimately, as a community, hair is a very good way to express so many things. And I always use a case study of in America, the African Americans pushed forward the Afro as a style, and that did many different things in the 70s. It empowered black people with styles that only they could do. It brought forward black industry in trying to do that kind of hairstyle, and and the world followed it and all that good stuff. And once again, there was a hairstyle that was easier for black people to do that others had to pay a fortune to try to emulate. So that's where you kind of want to be. I'm not going to really unpack the whole, black hair, what should and shouldn't be. That's something that we can really get the sisters to lead on and all that good stuff. But yeah, that was just a random video that I played. that I saw. Let's see if there's any others. We're not talking about black hair this week. It is a high anxiety topic.
Chinese.
Wait, did we do the Chinese one? No, I can't remember.
If you look,
No.
some days I'm now racist.
Oh, this
I
one.
believe it took 15 whole years for me to feel comfortable leaving.
Oh, this is an interesting one. This is that's my hair as well. So let's play it anyway.
I believe it took 15 whole years for me to feel comfortable leaving my house with my hair like this. And for real, I used to hate it. I can't stress you enough. I despised it for years. If it didn't have a wig on, it had to have hella gel. 20 million gels, otherwise I'm not wearing the tiggy mat. I can't get over how pretty it is. This took like 10 minutes. 10 minutes then one product, one curl cream, that was it. Now I realise it was never difficult, it was never hard to do. I just didn't like it. So I didn't make the effort.
Right, that's a sister just saying, about her perception of hair and how hard it was to maintain. It's connected, I guess, to the last one. But if you want to do a hair topic, let us know. If any sisters want to lead on it, by all means. And also, I will probably write down certain strategies of how best black people can, from an economic standpoint, as well as a easy maintenance standpoint, and maybe as a branding standpoint, see. But that's an interesting topic for us to do. What else we're talking about? So I need to download some of these other videos to us, right? But big up, Lev. Big up. Well, Black Betterment. Is your mic working?
Check.
Yes, there you go. Welcome to the show, family. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much. Excuse the croakiness. It's 7:14 a.m. here in sunny Eastern Australia. So it's going to take me a little while to acclimatize to the pace. But thanks for the welcome, Raven.
Of course, you're welcome. For those that we've been talking on the forum about certain topics, and we invite the brother to jump in anytime, and he's jumped in as we do like a community show. Anyone who wants to be constructive and offer solutions and have a back and forth, this is the place for you about black issues.
Love it.
So, brother, today's topic is we're going to start now because we had our two intros. And by all means, you can just listen or jump in or pause if you have anything to say. But the two things we're going to talk is how to respect Juneteenth, topic one, which is we discuss the importance of Juneteenth, I'm saying that wrong, and how to respect the holiday, as well as part two topic is what strategies can be used to fix black ethnic conflicts. We discuss the methods to synchronize black ethnic groups that publicly argue. And the two topics are somewhat connected to an extent, so that's important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what Juneteenth is. And let me get the video I've got. Meanwhile, I'm going to be downloading some of the stuff in the background. So just have a sneak listen while you, And if you ever want me to pause the video or anything, just say pause and we'll pause it. But you could just be a silent guest. It's up to you, for family. And anyone who wants to jump in, the link's there.
Excellent.
I think it was this one. Yeah. Okay, we go. So this is the education of what Juneteenth is.
President Biden made Juneteenth the newest federal holiday.
That because I might get a strike. Let me find the one I've actually blackified over. Stop share. Video open. I know I had a blackified one. I think it's this one.
President Biden made Juneteenth the newest federal holiday. June 19th marks the date in 1865 when the last enslaved people in America found out that they were free. CBS News special correspondent James Brown spoke with renowned Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. about the history and the significance of Juneteenth.
Juneteenth was not embraced as a national black holiday for a long, long time, but it was kept alive by black people in Texas. And that's what's so sweet about it. Our people have been hungry for holidays, hungry for tradition, hungry for stories about black history.
Because
without a past, you have no future. Did you like Harvard?
perhaps no one has done more to inform Americans of their past and in turn their future than Henry Louis Gates Jr. By day, he is a professor and director of the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots.
By night, he is the host and producer of the PBS genealogy show, Finding Your Roots, as well as countless documentaries on Black history.
These are the big three in the history of freedom of our enslaved ancestors. The Emancipation Proclamation, signed on January 1st, 1863, Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, and then finally the ratification of the 13th Amendment on December 6, 1865, which is what finally and ultimately abolished the institution of slavery.
Why do you think the 19th stuck?
One of the reasons that I think Juneteenth stuck is that we're all charmed by the poetic brilliance of the name, Juneteenth. What better name for a June 19th could there possibly be? That's great. It's fetching. You know, it's catchy.
As with all catchy names, Gates says there is also a bit of fiction around that day in 1865 when Gordon Granger issued General Order Number 3 to free the enslaved black people of Galveston, Texas, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation.
Well, we were raised to think that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, right? The problem is that the Emancipation Proclamation in and of itself didn't have the power to free anybody. It only applied to enslaved people in the Confederacy, and it can only be enforced if Union troops had captured territory in the South, in the Confederacy. Only about 500,000 enslaved men and women, we think, actually got their freedom from the Emancipation Proclamation. And James, there were 3.9 million enslaved African Americans. So the overwhelming majority of our ancestors were not freed by the Emancipation Proclamation.
So the significance then of General Gordon Granger going to Galveston?
We all think that the Civil War ended when Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox, which was April 9th, 1865. But that's not true. There were several different Confederate armies. So Texas finally surrenders to the Union on June 2nd. Gordon Granger comes, and on June 19th in Galveston, he issues the Emancipation Proclamation because now the Union Army is in possession of the territory. So that's the true story.
And what about the notion that enslaved black people in Texas did not know they were free?
One of the myths about Juneteenth is that nobody in Texas had heard about it. But there are two reasons that many historians think that black people knew about the Emancipation Proclamation too. One is because of the proverbial grapevine. So there was this miraculous way for enslaved people to communicate plantation to plantation and state to state. But the second factor is that because Texas was removed from the main action of the Civil War, many slaveholders moved to Texas for safety, and they took their enslaved people with them. Those enslaved people would have known about the Emancipation Proclamation by and large, and would have told other enslaved people. But no one could enforce it because the Union did not capture territory then. When I came here, I dedicated this tree in honor of my mother and father.
Professor Gates says the most important thing about Juneteenth is the era that came after.
The most radical thing that happened after the end of the
Well, listen, that what Juneteenth is, just important history, and it connects to our next topic. So have a listen, everyone.
Civil War for the rights of our enslaved ancestors were the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments and the Reconstruction Acts. This was the first concentration of black power. In the summer of 1867, 80% of all eligible black men who were formerly enslaved in the South registered to vote. And in 1868, they actually voted. Ulysses S. Grant won the presidency. So you could reasonably say that black men had elected a president of the United States.
Back in Galveston, Texas, the formerly enslaved began marking their freedom with the celebration 1 year later in 1866 and have been celebrating Juneteenth ever since. As far as Professor Gates is concerned, the details of Juneteenth are less important than the power of its message.
There's a kind of poetic magic in that story, a kind of comfort, a kind of retribution, a kind of belated administering of justice that appeals to all of us. Juneteenth is one of the first holidays that black people created on their own. And of the holidays that they created in slavery times, Juneteenth is the one that survived and is now a national holiday.
Isn't it important for all Americans to understand that Juneteenth ought to be embraced by all Americans?
For a country built upon the love of freedom, any manifestation of the enjoyment of freedom should be celebrated by all our countrymen. Let's hope for that day.
In Cambridge, Massachusetts, James Brown, CBS.
Yeah, that's Juneteenth, celebrating the 19th. Very important day, especially for the African Americans. It's one of the oldest holidays, and it's now officially a holiday. They made it in America, which is good. I think where this might correlate now with some other issues is I think there's been some. And I guess we saw the same thing. I guess kind of in Carnival here in the UK, where some African Americans want to make it very, very African American based. They want the culture to represent the African American experience. So they want less Pan African flags and more, I guess, African American flags. Or they've got different terms now: Foundation for Black American or African Descendants of ADOS. I'm saying it wrong. I'm letting that forgive me, but all different terms and stuff. And obviously, there's now there has been for some time, a bit of rumblings amongst people who actually live in America, from Black people who live in America from outside America, and African Americans, and certain clashes and stuff. Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, wasn't really an issue. Black people who moved to America were heavily integrated, and you would never really know or be able to know who was or wasn't, because there was pretty much one people. But there's certain new changes happening now, so we're going to cover it. Very important topic. I'm not mute them. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so let me actually. So now we know about Juneteenth. Very important holiday, and one of the things you want to do is you want to respect holidays from different places, and also if it's connected to freedom, people trying to get freedom and this kind of stuff. Very important. So now I'm going to play a video. We started and stopping it. It's going to have some strong words in there. Forgive me, I haven't really edited it, but let's see. Have I got there? Let me find it. Important for whom? It says Stanley. Important for African Americans and people who love Black freedom. Hold on. Let's. Well, I don't know this comedian woman. I haven't actually heard it, but I think it will be interesting to hear a perspective of. So I don't know where it's going to go. So let's listen to this woman just for 4 seconds. Let's see.
I used to hang out with Black Americans, but you know what surprised me most is that I felt no connection with Black Americans, and that surprised me. Now I know at the time I didn't. I felt no connections with Black Americans because you know what? Black Americans were woke. Black Americans had looked at their oppressor in the face. They had tunnel vision, just like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela looked at his oppressor in his face, and you know what? He had tunnel vision. They knew what was bringing them down. In Africa, we don't have tunnel vision. We don't know what is oppressing us. Because you know what? Because slavery just changed. It didn't go away, it just changed. So most people in Africa, we feel oppressed. We don't know what is oppressing us, you see. Those children in the Congo that are mining all of the coltan with their bare hands, they don't know that at the top of the chain is a white man. The children that are picking their cocoa, right? They don't actually know that the person at the top is a white man. I found out the farm next to my father's farm now belongs to Unilever. That's right. People in Africa cannot afford to buy land anymore. Do you know why? Because slavery never ended. It still carries on. They dump all their toxic waste all over Africa. All your babies' nappies are all over Africa. People cannot farm their land anymore. And you know what? Here's a fact. 3/4 of the people in Africa are under the age of 30. 3/4 of the people in Africa are under the age of 30. Majority of people in Africa have never heard of slave trade. Majority of people in Africa have never heard of colonialism. Majority of people in Africa only ever see white people when they're coming to save us. So majority of people in Africa fundamentally believe this. They fundamentally believe that white people are nice. They fundamentally believe that white people will do anything to save them. They fundamentally believe that if they walk across the Sahara Desert, cross perilous seas, the nice people in Europe will be welcoming them with big open hands. I say, if you don't want people from Africa coming to your continent, let them know the real you. That's right. Show them, because information in Africa, history is completely controlled in Africa. We don't learn history in Africa. Do you know what? Show them the brutality of the empire. Show them the brutality of the slave trade. Just show them. And you know what? If you don't want people from Africa coming to Europe, leave Africa alone.
Okay, so that's a lady. I don't know where that was. But now we're going to listen to some of the people talking, and we'll start and stop just to see. I was given the video. Where is that video? There we go. So for those who are listening to Diaspora Wars, I guess in part 3, I guess the same, but it's in ethnic kind of conflict, black ethnic conflict, or disagreements. And we can see if we can try to unpack some of the stuff, or see the history of it, so we can find a solution. There's going to be strong language. Sorry, I haven't beeped nothing out. Whoopsie daisy.
I say FBA were right.
So FBA means Foundational Black American. It was coined by a guy called Tariq Nasheed. He makes very good documentaries, and he saying he formed this. He can quote himself better than me. He formed this term because African Americans. He wanted the term to tie Americans to America, as in he's saying that black people built, or foundational Black Americans built America. So he wants a word to connect them, and they're not guests in their country. Also, there was a squabble between Black and Caribbean and African people and African Americans, and in the whole squabble, this is the outcome, and what you'll see now. I assume in this video will be connected to that in some kind of way.
Delineation is the only answer right now. They were right. Black Americans need to separate themselves. Caribbeans need to separate themselves. Everyone needs to separate themselves. Africans need to separate themselves. If we're not stronger, we together, I don't know. I don't care. If they're going to pick us out one by whatever it is, listen, if I'm going to be destroyed, let me be destroyed with my small community of people that I trust, that I know trust me back. I'm saying this because I noticed, right, the last couple of days, like last couple of weeks, I've been going back and I've been fighting this. I've been trying to fight this, but it's like, you can come and say it's bots, right? But no, it's not. And I mean, the last couple of days, I've been people that I know, people that follow me, black women, black men, have been out of nowhere coming out. Oh, delineation is needed. Delineation. Don't talk about Black America. Don't talk about this. I get it. I'm going to stick to my place. I'm going to know my place. I'm going to stick to primarily African topics. And that's it. That's it. I'm not FBA. I apologize. You guys were right. Simple. Just, I will stay out of anything Black American. Don't ever, I mean, everyone, if you follow me because you thought I was Black Unity, fuck you, get away, we're done. No Black Unity anymore. I can't keep doing something and watching people actively working against it, who you're supposed to be helping, who you're supposed to be part of I can't. So unfollow.
So I'm sure, maybe I should know his brother. Don't know who his brother is, but I assume he does some kind of work, and probably you guys might know, and maybe he's not best pleased that he's getting messages from African Americans, or he said something that they're trying to delineate from. I have no idea. I would say that the way you want to have these conversations is you want to kind of have an open talk about, let's discuss what the issue is, and let's say where the breakdown has gone, and let's see what actually is there an issue. Because sometimes I feel people just talking in different directions. There's a very simple solution, really. And that starts with listening. So let's just see what
me. I don't care. I don't do this for money.
Because you're not actually saying anything, and that's the thing where people just talking about feelings and stuff, but there has to be something that's being done, and it can't be done. There has to be something that there's a grievance somewhere. Someone has made a complaint, so we can unpack that complaint and find solutions. So I'm not sure what this brother's saying, but I'm sure it's it.
I don't make money. This is just content that I do because I do it. So fuck you, fuck your mother.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, obviously, this is what I'm saying about swearing and language. Like, as a community, I reckon, I know it's trendy and stuff to swear every time. I mean, you got the internet. There's no referee, say what you want. I think when we're trying to find solutions and stuff, then I guess this might represent him feeling downtrodden. Who knows?
Unfollow me. Maybe that'll make sense for you now. I don't. This makes no sense.
Big up, brother Kelber. Big up, brother Stanley. Big up, Lev. Big up, brother Pan. And big up, Dominic. Big up, anyone who's in the live and anyone who hasn't jumped forward. Big yourself up. We're joined by brother Lev today. He's a newcomer, so we're going to give him the platform to speak if he wants. We might have a quick discussion now time, because I know he might have things to do today. But right now the topic is civil war, I guess, amongst the black community and solutions. But we'll listen to the video now. We won't listen to all of it because it's quite long, but we're just going to get just a little grasp of what is happening, and we can all give our own opinions and and what their goal is and all this kind of stuff.
No, it makes no sense that I'll see a video. I'll make a video about how black people need to take back construction, and I'm getting attacked by everyone. You're not black American. Shut the fuck. What?
Right. So I think what the brother's saying is he might make a video saying something like, you know, black people should do this, and then someone will jump in and say, you're not black American. You can't say nothing. And I think that, you know, this is where some of those challenges come, where you have people who want to delineate for one reason, which you can understand. You want to highlight one ethnic group, there's another ethnic group. But then if it now contributes to you trying to undermine general black betterment and just competition, because unfortunately in the hearts of many black people is that longing to actually destroy black progression, unfortunately. And the reason why people might want to delineate is because that's happening from one end. But it's very easy for black people to be tunnel vision to destroy each other, unfortunately. It's one of the things that comes easily and naturally, it seems, or even unnaturally, but perceived naturally. So we have to try to watch that. But when it happens, rather than get angry and point fingers, it's like, what is the solution? So let's carry on listening.
Now my conversation is how we need to find a way to get the Africans here. So we need to get jobs that nobody's taking so that the Africans can take over, how Africans can send money back home so we could build Africa. And I don't give a fuck about anyone else. I'm serious. Instagram, y'all gonna think this is a joke. Stop sending me these. I don't care anymore. I swear to God, I don't care. Stop sending me any clips. Stop sending me any reels. You do that, the moment you send me a reel, I am blocking you. I don't care anymore.
We get started today, I want to make it perfectly clear. At no point in time is the FBA ever allowed on any of my social media. Don't come here. Until y'all change y'all views and stop with.
So just to what they're saying, FBA stands for Foundation of Black America. So I think what these people might be saying is that people who identify that, some of them have a behavioral pattern that these people don't like, because if unless they mean every African American, then this is why you have to get clarification in language about what you're trying to not have on your show. But then we have to establish what has happened to make black people, at least in this region or this particular part of the internet, have these behavioral patterns towards each other.
With that bigoted rhetoric that anybody who is not of so many years of American lineage does not count as a black person or American, you're not allowed here. You're not allowed on none of my social media. If you put disrespect in my comments, 10 times out of 10, you probably...
Remember, I would say that when you're communicating, it's always best to be calm, be constructive, and do not name call. Because what's going to happen is when you name call, the issue you're talking about will no longer be the issue. And the feelings that is generated from the name calling then becomes the primary issue. You see? And I suspect that if I was to try to find solutions now, we have people from two different ethnic groups, very soon to go, but they said this, but he said that. So remember, if you can figure that, then of how to use language, then you might minimize any time wasted and anxiety that might be caused from confusions between different people groups.
Probably will get it right back. Again, at no point in time is the FBA ever allowed on my page. Y'all are a black version of the Klan. The only difference between y'all and the...
Another thing, I saw this on the show the other week as well, where black people are very quick to make other black people or groups or whatever synonymous with anti-black racist white groups. I guess in poetry that can work if you're trying to be hyperbole, but generally it's something that we should probably not try to do. It's I don't see anything. I don't see the motivation behind that.
The Klan is the Klan wear white sheets. If you were able, if you don't wear them already, your sheets would be black. The way y'all...
I would assume this sister here is a person who was born in America, but her parents will be from either the Caribbean or Africa, I'm assuming.
I'll talk to the rest of us in the black diaspora that you don't deem as black American or that you don't deem as black, period, is dishonorable, disrespectful, and disgusting. The rhetoric, the claims that y'all make trying to invalidate the rest of our blackness is exactly why I don't want nothing to do with y'all. Don't ever come...
Y'all want to call black Americans xenophobic when they want their own identity.
So I think this sister here is actually African American.
Identity. In 2025, everybody's considered black now. Everybody's black. Everybody's Afro-Latina, Afro this, Afro that. But when it's time to talk about black Americans, you're quick to say you're not a black American until you want to be in the black American club. It's crazy.
Black Americans, we don't even have necessarily a word for our own culture that we can be proud of. That you can be Nigerian, you can be Jamaican, you could be Trinidadian, you can be whatever. It feels very much like we're allowed in your.
That's something to unpack as well. African Americans are a people group who live in the place that enslaved them and colonized them, and the governance of that place is done by the historical enemies of the African American. When you look at Jamaica or Nigeria, these are places that are governed by the ethnic group, the black ethnic group. Now, England is very different because England is obviously governed by Europeans, but this is black people coming to live in a place like England who then descend from a nation that has their own kind of governance, right? Well, America is very different, and because of the whole enslavement period, that the connection towards Africa and old kingdoms has been forgotten through the practice of white supremacy. So if you try to tell a person they don't know their roots or they're not from a certain place, it could hit extra hard. So that's why there's a very important value in African Americans saying that they built up America, so they have a stake in that place, and that's theirs because they built it, and also they're very part of the fabric of the culture in America because African American activities are very popular. You know what I'm saying? So this is something to be aware of when you are a person in the diaspora talking to an African American. These are the things to keep in the back of your mind.
Your club, but you're not allowed in ours club. You asked for more Black American music to be played for Juneteenth, and there's this backlash like Juneteenth isn't a celebration about and for Black Americans. Juneteenth is about.
So I think this is because Juneteenth looks like in certain places looks very much like Caribbean Carnival in Notting Hill, and Notting Hill there was this backlash about wanting to have more Afro-Caribbean music as opposed to other forms. And there was pushback and people discussed that, but it sounds like a similar kind of thing. So maybe that's what
the release of slaves in America. When you go overseas, they're very vocal about making sure that you know that you are not one of them. They make sure that you are identified as American. Everything about you is Americanized. But then when you want a separation between the Black Americans and, the Black immigrants or, first generation or whatever, it's saying that we're xenophobic when it's no. I'm not being xenophobic, but just like you're allowed to put your little flags in your bio and you're allowed to have your own cultural things, you're allowed to have your own cultural food, I have mine too. The issue is you look at Black Americans like we lack culture, like we lack an identity, when our identity and our culture is one of the most replicated ones in the entire world.
That's one thing that we have to unpack what this says there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro. Do you want to speak?
No, I'm just agreeing. I'm agreeing with the context of, Black American culture has become the dominant Black culture globally. And you see this throughout the so-called diaspora, in terms of Black identity, very much mirroring American culture, in terms of music, in terms of dress, in terms of speech. It's become internalized globally, but yeah, there's definitely more to unpack there.
Yeah, definitely. And this is one thing that sometimes what happens is because African American culture is so popular, it's almost expected that that's world culture. And when Caribbeans or Africans have any cultures, that's actually African and Caribbean culture, and others have to be very careful when they do it. And that's the thing, you've got to be, this is the thing where someone used a term I heard, they said that most people never think that African Americans will ever punch down, meaning that they'll just tolerate certain behavioral patterns. What we're seeing now is, and enough is enough, it seems. But one of the things that I think has flipped the script, and this is very important because it's what we covered here, and it's where there might be people from outside the African American community who've gone to live in the African American community, and they've been used to undermine very important things like reparations and this kind of stuff, right? And this is very diabolical if you have people who are not from America lineage-wise, and they're being used by white supremacists to undermine the claims of African Americans to actually get reparations for the murder and enslavement of their ancestors. And obviously they use, and we see this everywhere. Just like we see in Africa, they're sending the American general over there who's Black to try to demonize the
patrol, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, we see strategies, but unfortunately, this is tricky because you have to know that, but still, try to correct that and not create a kind of civil war based upon the actions of the unsynchronized people doing that. Let's carry on listening.
At the end of the day, I feel like it boils down to empathy. We need to start trying to understand the experiences and the reasonings and the things behind why people are saying what they're saying instead of automatically just being offended. Before just saying something is racist, before saying something is xenophobic, think about why these people are saying this. Why do you think Black Americans want to preserve their Black American identity? Why do you think that? Because think about how much work people of other nationalities put into preserving their cultures. We want to do that.
And I know Juneteenth around the corner. All I got to say is this better be the blackest fucking Juneteenth of all time. I don't want to hear nothing else but African American art forms. I don't want to hear shit else but rap, R&B, perhaps some country, throw some jazz in that bitch, maybe even some blues. I don't want to hear no fucking Wizkid Yayo, no Tyler, no fucking Caribbean music. Save all
Forgiveness for the language, everyone.
that shit for the rest of 364 days of the fucking year. Y'all niggas.
We have to do a show on strong language because all over the diaspora globe, this is like the normal way people seem to be speaking on their.
Absolutely, yeah. You know? I think it's an important thing that needs to be looked at in the way rage is manifesting itself, Raven.
Exactly.
You know, about food. It's just unfiltered, unregulated rage that's coming out in this language.
Yeah. And it is hard to regulate and hard to use it as a case study because it triggers other things and stuff. And like I said, what we were saying before is when someone is venting and they're using such language and they mention other kind of groups and other things, then that might be contributing to a mood that isn't they're trying to get across, but it might come across because of how people collate these languages as an attack. You see, so that So
if you don't mind me saying, I mean, and also if you don't mind me going back to the previous woman who was essentially the crux of what she was saying was that all of this has to begin with understanding.
Yeah.
And the key question to all of it is why. You know, why do African Americans feel this way? Why are they coveting their culture? And it comes from a place of lack and loss. And also, without trying to get too analytical at 7:44 a.m., that a lot of this is what you quite rightly say, Raven. It's around this grouping. So when they say, "Oh, it's them," I don't want to hear no Tyler. I don't want to hear no Wizkid. I don't want to hear no Caribbean music. What they're inadvertently doing is they're creating the in group and the out group, and it ties into this concept, which I'm sure you're aware of, Raven, called social identity theory. And the social identity theory essentially manifests itself as people creating these divisions based on who's the in group. And so in this case, African Americans see themselves as the in group, and so-called Black people across the Africa and the wider globe as the out group. And that's all, unfortunately, a manifestation of a post-colonial mindset, because ultimately it's all one group that's just been then fragmented. Don't get me wrong, there's specificity within that group, and I know you're aware of that. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling on, please feel free to interject. But, the specificity needs to be hailed and recognized. African Americans are one group with one history, as you say, in one context. Caribbean people, Afro-Latinas, Africans from all the different countries within Africa, here in Australia, Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders, they all have their own specificity. However, this kind of language, what it does is it creates more of that division in the out group thinking. So I just want to,
very important, analysis there. And yeah, so the take this approach from an understanding standpoint, and
absolutely.
I do want to invite any brothers who are in that concept, who identify as FBA or who might be living in America or here. I remember a few years back there was an argument between some Jamaican brothers here and some American brothers over there on some Zoom call, and they were arguing about who invented hip hop and this kind of stuff. And and I tried to go and say, look, try the approach from this angle, but the anxiety was already in the air. So one thing I'm trying to do now is to try to remove any anxiety from the conversation and say, ultimately, what we're looking for is across the globe, Black betterment and how that can be achieved. So if there's any grievances or any misunderstandings, we look forward to our discussion so we can establish what went wrong and how could it be corrected, and how can we move forward to make sure these issues don't happen. The only thing I'm well aware of is the concept of sabotage for reparations. So that's something that we can tackle. Like that's a very big problem. If someone is moving to your land and certain members of the community are being used to undermine strategic plans to get reparations for your people group. I mean, I kind of, if that happened in the Caribbean where people came from America and went there, they did the same thing. That'd be very problematic. So that if we can always have that conversation.
One of the other things that's a really significant point, you know, around the respect of those who then go to America to respect African American history and not come with the mindset of, you know, I'm African and so therefore somehow superior. Because again, it's just a mirroring of a post-colonial mindset and divisionistic mindset. But one of the things, going back to the young woman in the clip before, when she was talking about understanding, is I always feel that at this time with the technology we have and the ability to do DNA checking, to really get an understanding of the whereabouts of your ancestral lineage is there, is at your fingertips, literally. I don't say that, you know, in a hyperbolic way. It's the ability to go and buy a DNA kit and then get the testing. I mean, you can do your due diligence and research what, you know, which of these facilities is good and which isn't, and which aligns with your values. But there's an ability now for African Americans, for Caribbean people across the diaspora and so on, to literally kind of get a better geographical understanding of where their ancestral history comes from, which I've done myself. And it's a very, how can I say, there's somewhat a healing and cathartic feeling from that, because you get a sense that my history begins prior to the Caribbean or prior to America. And so that ability to somewhat pinpoint that geographical location then allows you to do more research, get into your first cousins, second cousins, you know, the wider family, as it were, and make those kind of inroads for those conversations as well, Raven. So I think a lot of that ties into how we, I say we in inverted commas, of course, also, you know, invest our money and think about, you know, trying to get to the root of these issues. But that to me is a really significant potential solution to this feeling of displacement, mental displacement, and not knowing our lineage.
Well, there's two ways for me to answer that. And the African American scholars in the past, that was their strategy, and it's a good strategy. However, what's happening now though is so what happened is, and there's multiple reasons why this happened. There's always a history of Caribbean and Afro Americans not valuing or wanting to be connected to Africa. That goes on. But there also was the movement of trying to retrace your lineage through that way, and that was quite successful. But what happened, unfortunately, to undermine that is like we showed the video of the sister who was doing the African not stand up but talking. And that is where African Americans or Afro Caribbeans go to Africa with this kind of like, I'm here to find my roots, and then they meet other Africans, and the conversation then is disparaging. So I've seen it when it was at Speaker's Corner, where you might have an African, continental African telling the Caribbean, "You're not African. You don't know anything."
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, but here's remember, and the way you've got to oversee this is, every single black person has the self-sabotage switch in their head, unfortunately, if you live in this world, right? And what you tend to see is, I've seen the same person who will walk up to a Caribbean or African American. I've seen it, and they say, "You're the African because you wasn't here, whatever." When that Caribbean or that African American says, "Oh, I'm not actually African. I've changed. I'm now from America. That's what I am. I'm going to Africa." Then the same African who said, "You're not African," says, "Oh no, you are. You are." So it's almost like I've seen that dynamic where people use Africanity or blackness as a weapon. So you might go up to a darker skinned person, a light skinned person, and say, "You're not African, you're not black because of this." So you might go up to a person, "You're not black because you're not enslaved." And it's where the bigger community uses certain elements of a person's lineage or past or a phenotype to try to remove them from a certain thing, because something is being said or there's something that they don't like, or they want to have a quick reset button on a discussion. So it's like, "Well, you're not black or you're not African, so you can't speak on it." And so that all goes on. But I think where we're at now, before we can even recommend African Americans doing DNA test, is the acceptance of what is being pushed forward, and that is that we respect them as the people group who contributed tremendously to America, and is part of the foundation of the building of that, and how the culture that they have created has become a primary culture in America. And I guess from outside looking in, the advice we would do is to follow their ancestors' advices, and everything that you've owned, that you've created, you want to own. So all the music and the food and the culture,
absolutely.
you want to be the primary. Yes.
Yeah, you know, I really appreciate that kind of the generosity of you sharing the experience at Speaker's Corner, and I'm aware, of course, that there are individual Africans, Caribbeans who, you know, have got ignorant mentalities around what blackness is, and you raise a significant point around establishing the importance of African Americans to the fabric of America and literally foundationally building the country. If I can just say though, I mean, the opinions of individuals anecdotally in a speaker's corner or in these kind of conversations, whatever it may be, Raven, is one thing, and it's not to diminish the significance or the harm of those opinions, but there's those opinions, and then there's fact. there's unabashed historical truth, which is we come from a specific place, and to then designate, understand, and know geographically where those roots, for lack of a better term, are, is an empowering thing. It's not to suggest that all of our more recent cultural ancestral lineage isn't as significant, but it helps with what I'm specifically referring to, what the young lady in the previous clip was referring to about not having a culture. You see, and if a lot of African American people feel that way, which I'm sure they do, because I have plenty of African American family as well, or black family in the States, just anecdotally, and I'm aware of this kind of disconnect in terms of American culture versus the Caribbean, specifically Jamaica, where my mum and dad are from, which then those roots are so strong comparatively, right? So without going on too many tangents, the point is that if there are displaced African Americans mentally who feel that culturally they don't have any ties, a solution, not the, but a potential solution could be to attempt to find those geographical roots from the motherland, from the continent, to see, you know, where they stem from, and then do further research individually around that.
No, I agree.
And to me, that supplements that feeling of connection to then supplement what's going on in America around their African American identities.
I would say this. Well done for that, brother. I would say, because what's mentioned in these videos is the term ADOS and FBA. That means there's a certain mindset and ideology that's come through. So what's interesting about this particular, because basically this group is now the rebranding of an ethnic group. So the African Americans, and there's a small section that want to call it for them Foundation Like America. So those who are pushing for that, the majority of them, or a high amount of them, have a good history on say black nationalism and Pan-Africanism and stuff. And what you're seeing is because of what has been reported and what has been seen and felt, that group are now they're using the term delineation, as in they don't want to be seen as a global blackness. They want a very specific recognition of the ethnic group of African American, and they want to be foundational, because they don't want Afro-Nigerians, Afro-Jamaicans to either be identified or be able to have opinion in court or in some kind of institution where it might jeopardize whatever they're about.
Yes.
And then unfortunately, there's going to be plenty of people who, just like other ethnic groups, are more prone to be name calling and argumentative. And I suspect some of the videos we're playing, you're going to see the reaction to that. So
I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and these are the conflicts and the difficulties with, again, for me, the way in which you approach these things, and you can do it for so many different factors and sectors and discussions, but it's looking at the micro and the macro, okay, and distinguishing the two. The macro is about the connection, the intersections, and the epigenetics, which can't be denied. You know, everything that you're referring to, Raven, around blackness, black betterment, is essentially tied to a collective epigenetic experience. and I'm sure you're aware of what I mean when I say that. And the epigenetics of the Black experience in the West is very much a universal experience, right? So to then dissect that and want to make it a micro argument around Nigerians or Caribbeans or whomever coming to America and taking certain benefits, advantages, narratives away from the American experience. These two conversations can be had synonymously. It's not one and again, it comes with good leadership, it comes with a good mindset and mentality, but one doesn't necessarily have to undermine the other. It's saying, okay, our roots start and stem from a similar place. Our pains are different. Our experiences may be different. Our cultural identities may be different, but the overarching similarities outweigh the differences, you see? And again, that has to come with a fact-based, a fact historical-based lens as opposed to an opinion-based lens, you see? And I think that fundamentally one, for lack of a better term, trumps the other. Do you know what I mean? So that to me is the way in which to kind of distinguish the two arguments being had. Is this a macro conversation or is it a micro one?
Excellent. This carry on. Thank you, brother. Good jewels there being given by Brother Luke.
Shit on us year round, and it's not to cause a diaspora war, but Juneteenth is for fucking us. If you are not Sulan, if you are not from the lost tribe, my nigga, if you are not a descendant of chattel slavery in America, I don't care about what you think about Juneteenth, nigga. This shit ain't for y'all. Everybody else got their own Independence Day. Juneteenth is ours. Black people, y'all better turn the fuck up on Juneteenth. I'm not playing. Do y'all most ratchetest, ghettoest shit? I don't care, bro. Nigga, this shit is for us. We went through this shit. We built this shit.
All the transplants. Leave New York City. It's no reason why y'all are complaining about Caribbean music being played when Jamaican, Haitians, and Trini run majority of this city. And the Dominicans. I'm not going to forget the Dominicans. And the Puerto Ricans, too. Get out of here. Because there's no reason why I should be seeing on Twitter people complaining about Caribbean music at a party in New York. I don't know if I'll remember, but this city is literally the Caribbean. Like, get out of here, please.
It was good, Cleo. Big Nigerian on the scene.
You feel me? Big Niger gal.
All right.
Just sitting here thinking, remember when we could tell where you bitches was from based off of how y'all dressed? How y'all dressed, though? We knew exactly where y'all were from based off of how y'all dressed. And it went something like this. Down south bitches, y'all could never dress. It was never given, oh yeah, like we could tell a bitch can't dress. She from the south. She's from the...
So, I'm just trying to see what to say. Nigerian Alteva talks about FBAs from the south, but meanwhile, Africans are looking like this. Yeah, so this is where it's going. So I think what this is there's a sister who's from, I have a Caribbean African background, who was born in America somewhere, and she's identifying as being from America, but critiquing a different era of America, and I think someone's using that to then say, well, actually, this woman's from, I think, Nigeria, maybe. Yeah, it says Nigeria, and the term they use is teva, and what this comes from. This comes from it's like a derogative term to describe, just like you have terms like they use like coon and pickaninny, this kind of stuff. The term teva is a derogative term to describe a black person who's not African American, who was born there and is doing behavior patterns that isn't in the best interest of black people in that area, and that's why they use the term teva, as in like you were tethered here, as in you were born here, this kind of stuff, right? And I think someone's made a video just to talk about this woman, as in like there was a time where Nigerians looked like this and something like that. So let's see. But once again, these kind of jokes and these kind of things, when you do them in these kind of contexts, it will start becoming more malicious. And I think the analogy I gave before is there are personalities on the internet who are very good at roasting and making fun of people. But the way they do it is They do it and they just go to the edge before they go over the edge. They're so skilled in dissing. But what happens? Their fans then try to emulate what they're doing and not being as skilled in, I guess, dogging people or whatever it is. They start going way overboard and further contribute to a problematic behavior pattern.
It's out. Like the way she's dressing is giving Southern.
So like, try to get pictures of poverty in Africa or poverty in America and go, this is your people, this is your people. At a certain point, we've seen this behavioral pattern back in school, back in the days, in regardless of country you're in. I'm saying that these small jokes might be funny now, but they escalate into name calling, and then what you happen is I always give examples when I was speaking school, and a Nigerian brother was arguing for a Somali brother. And they literally just had a whole history of problems from each other's countries, and it just literally read them out. And you're a goat herder, it's like all this kind of stuff was going everywhere. I was like, who wins that battle? That's like a nuclear war. No one's going to win that, right? Yeah. So these are the things to watch for this kind of thing.
It always gave that. It always gave. All right, the way she's dressing is giving Southern, like it's giving down south. That's how us up north people was looking at down south. Now the Southerns is giving a Northern, like y'all are dressing like y'all from New York, which is cool. But don't act like y'all started something, cause you bitches never gave swag. Cali, we knew y'all was from Cali based off of how y'all dressed too. Like we knew where everybody was from.
So I think what this is, they're saying the woman is trying to compete between East America and South, but they're saying you're actually from Nigeria, and here's how you're Africa, whatever, and here's how your people dress. So this is like where I assume this is going.
And guess what? When you seen a New York bitch come through, you knew she was from New York because the swag was turned up. Swag was turned up. It was giving all the way, turned up, all the way. I like that you Southern bitches can dress now. Congratulations! But don't let that get to your head top.
This is the case study for those joining. We're talking about the diaspora wars, and we're looking at clips that of black ethnic groups insulting each other because of certain contexts. We're trying to find solutions, but before we find solutions, we have to understand what has started a kind of conflict. There's always been every 10 years there's some kind of conflict, but we always try to go to the ancestors and the elders and what they said when they were here about how best to deal with that, because unfortunately within many, or if not every black person, is that kind of switch that wants people to fight each other and self-display. That voice is very yes. That sisters, I think, and that's the thing. These people, they make these videos, and you never know what they're gonna say.
Because it always gave us.
Let me skip this bit.
We always
kept the swag. Raven, if you don't mind me, if you don't mind me interjecting, just briefly, when I see a clip like that, and as you and I are new to each other, and again, thank you so much for having me on here, and the conversation, already is really meaningful, and I appreciate it. But one of the things that really strikes me as sad and difficult to engage with this type of that type of clip is I'm questioning: are you doing this for popularity, or are you doing this for progress to that young woman? Right? It's the distinction. Is it for popularity or is it for progress? And again, my way of always trying to approach things is by compartmentalizing to make sense of it. And a video like that where she's calling women from the South, from the South bitches and these kind of bitches, and they weren't turned up. Okay, wonderful. It's jest, it's humor, and I guess there's a market for that in social media, and not everything's always going to be academic or cerebral and intellectual. That we have to appreciate that and not be arrogant about these things. But at the same time, I hear something like that and I just think this is beneath the conversation that we're trying to establish here. It really is, because it's about, and this isn't a criticism at you, Raven. You're sharing the message, right? In order to, really kind of contextualize all of it. But these kind of commentators, these kind of people, what are they adding of value You know, what are they adding of significance? They're making observations about people's appearance who share the same lineage as them, the same background as them, but just come from a different state. And to me, it just couldn't be a clearer example of ignorance. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think you know that's what for me it boils down to, kind of really questioning: is this person doing this for popularity, or are they doing this for progress?
Well, I think, yeah, I agree, and I think ignorance is a big part of many decisions, but unfortunately, people's ignorance can be branded and it can spread, and and this is what we're seeing, where you have these random people who can tell ignorant stuff very well, and they can market and brand it really well, and before you know it, there's a legion of people who think this kind of way. So what we try to do is we try to what is motivating this behavior pattern. Now, people trying to get clicks and people trying to ignorant, that's just one thing, right? But if someone is generally concerned about something, yeah. So I saw my internet was playing up, and I'm hearing. Let me mute. Is that me? Mic check. Sorry about that. Yeah. If what was I saying? If there's genuine grievances, and we can actually establish what they are, then we can offer a solution before someone offers a solution that is destructive and will go nowhere. You see, so that's the idea. The idea is establish what people are describing of what is causing them to do something, and then have a kind of discussion about solution. Also invite others who feel the same way, but they might express in a different way.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, and it opens up the wider discussion. Yeah, it's I guess what I'm doing here in this moment is just reacting to the specific clips to make sure that we can kind of get an idea of the crux of each argument being made. one by one.
I think so. Because this was sent to me, and what was sent to me, I think it's just a collection.
Right.
I think it's a collection of snippets of people's pages describing, I assume, arguments online between African Americans, people that identify as FBA and this kind of stuff, as well as Afro Caribbeans and Africans, continental Africans in America and outside America, I guess, as well, arguing and how quickly people can turn on each other, and I guess for us it's like, you know, how do you combat that, or how do you offer something to move the argument forward, or not touch your focus on it. But yeah, amongst that, you're going to get a whole lot of like clickbait specialists who use these things, right? So, but this is what we have to try to fan in.
Because she said that New York taught down south people how to dress. This week,
I can't hear this, right? I'm just going to I'm just going to test something. Hold on.
Do you know, I used.
All right, let me put this one back.
Talking about, you know, what's ruining the NYC club scene, the fact that there's too much Caribbean music and and all that other shit, and that's why most Black Americans are moving back down south and all this other shit. Y'all sound xenophobic. Because a better way to say that is just you who live in Brooklyn haven't been able to find any spots that primarily only plays hip hop, or you haven't looked.
Now, there's a brother here called Pan, and he's coming. He said, "I'm actually American. Let me comment on this." Just so you know, brother Lev, and I'm sorry I have to make this. The brother has a certain ideology that doesn't really correlate with what we promote, and we have said that if he keeps going on a kind of like a tangent on this, or branding on it, I should say, that we might have to limit, because you're new here and new people might be surprised his ways. So, brother Pam, we will put you on, but just so you know, if you go down the branding path you went before, we might have to push you down again. We just want to focus on the topic if possible. So here you are, brother Pan. Welcome to the Black Betterment. You said you wanted to say something on this particular topic. Is that correct?
Yes, but just so I'm clear, because you gave the disclaimer, what tangent do you not want me to go down? Just so I'm clear.
just to clear, what it is we understand that you want to rebrand people of African descent who have a historical admixture as a new term. We won't use the term now because some get offended by it, but we won't use term. So we understand all that. But what we're saying now is that group who are in America now, there's a conflict between people from the Caribbean, people from America. Let's just stick on this particular issue: Caribbean and Afro-American who are having a disagreement about these particular things. If you can keep it on that, then that would be good. But if it's a branding lesson, we're gonna have to put it down because we've had 4 weeks of it and we understand it very well.
Yes, and with all due respect, you're being sensitive. At least allow me to articulate myself on the topic at hand. And your mischaracterization of me is inaccurate. But let's get to the point right now.
Go ahead.
Now, as far as the immigrants of African descent in the U.S., and for the record, I did not create the term mulatto, so it has nothing to do with me rebranding anything. But as far as the black immigrants in the U.S., we, as descendants of U.S. chattel slaves, and there's an echo. Someone will have to mute up, please.
I'm just gonna mute Lev. That's a test if there's echo from you. Yeah, go ahead. Are you still hearing the echo?
No, I'm not hearing the echo because no one else is speaking, but I'm not hearing it right now. But I'll get right to it.
Right.
We, as descendants of U.S. chattel slaves, especially in the civil rights movement, you'll see that Black Americans and mulatto Americans fought for immigrants from all around the world to come to the U.S. Now, when these same immigrants came to the U.S., they worked against the descendants of U.S. chattel slaves. They worked against Black Americans and mulatto Americans, and as a result, specifically the Black immigrants, that's who we're speaking about right now. But really, all immigrants, since they have worked against the same people that fought for them to come to the U.S., karmically now they are being mass deported. And you'll notice that in the streets, as the Black immigrants and the Latino immigrants and the immigrants of all other races are being mass deported, you'll notice that the Black Americans and the mulatto Americans, we are not fighting to keep the immigrants here, really. So this is all karma playing out. And in closing, as far as the delineation discussion, it's very important when immigrants come to the U.S., and right now we're focusing on the Black immigrants. They are not ashamed to fly that Jamaican flag, that Nigerian flag, that Ethiopian flag, etc. That in itself is delineation. We as Black Americans, we fought for you to come here because we thought that you all would team up with us as Blacks, but you did not do that. You worked against us. So now we karmically and logically are saying, all right, well, if you all are drawing a line, we will acknowledge that that line exists. You're Jamaican, all right, we are American. You're Nigerian, we're American. You're Trinidadian, we're American. Meaning you can be deported and we cannot. So good riddance, respectfully.
Thanks for your opinion, Brother Pan. Excellent. So what Brother Pan said there is what I've heard from a few African American brothers and sisters, or FBAs and stuff, and that is the contention. That is the point of contention, as in the belief or the feeling that energy was spent to try to get Black people from the diaspora into the Americas, and the thought that there will be a coalition, and there was in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. That did go on, and a lot of the Black Panther movements and hip hop movements, all that kind of stuff. You did see that kind of synergy and stuff, but they say that either through ignorance or anti-Black hatred or self-hatred, or just COINTELPRO operatives, or whatever it might be, you're seeing a heightened in people who see this word delineation isn't an issue. Like if people want to, if people are from a different ethnic group, you say that there's no issue there, right? I think the issue is the sabotaging or the mean spiritedness of undermining a particular ethnic group for whatever reason. And I think this is what's been highlighted. Or at least this is something that we can have a conversation about. And if there's any African Americans or people based in America in the audience, or in a future time you hear this video and you want to come on, let us know. We can set up a talk. We're always good to hear the perspectives of people on the ground, their understanding, and what solutions look like, or what betterment looks like, or how collaboration can happen to make sure these things are minimized in the future time. Is Karen listening?
But instead
And yet, for those listening, what we listen to is very decisive videos, and we use it as case studies. So sometimes we have to listen to very problematic videos to see what is spearheading these kind of things, and how, and do we have to deal with it, or will it be influential to certain things we're doing? So this is what it is.
Just saying that you tried to say that Caribbean people and Caribbean culture is ruining the culture of New York.
Looking for Southern hospitality in New York is literally crazy to me. I'm sure you did your research before coming. You can't come to New York and think everything is going to be rainbow. All right, y'all, it's time to clock in. I'm about to talk about growing up Caribbean American in New York City.
American Black, like, y'all West Indians, humble yourself, because y'all think y'all so lit. Y'all swear y'all so lit, when the only thing y'all ever gave us was Oxtail and Nicki Minaj. Like, let's be clear. The only thing y'all ever gave us was Oxtail and Nicki Minaj. I don't like y'all music like that. That soca shit, get it out of here. That shit give me a headache. Hate it. Hate it. Like, y'all food, I don't fuck with y'all food like that, except Oxtail. Hate it. Like, y'all swear y'all so fucking lit.
So I just watched another creator's video that inspired me to make this, but I feel like blackness isn't as celebrated in the Caribbean as it is in the United States. And I'm only speaking from my experience as a Caribbean girl. I'm Guyanese. But, you know, although the Caribbean is like a very diverse, and multicultural place, I feel like your blackness isn't celebrated, like your culture and your heritage is celebrated, but not necessarily your blackness the same way it's celebrated in the United States.
Excuse me.
Welcome back to Beard Back Podcast.
Sorry.
I'm your host.
Did someone say something?
Yeah, that was me. I apologize for cutting it, brother. It seemed like he about to say something important. But initially when I spoke, was my microphone going in and out?
Oh, no, we heard you. We did hear you. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And can I comment on the last three women that spoke?
Go ahead.
Yes. Actually, more than one of the sisters that was a foundational Black American, and I empathize and relate to the foundational Black Americans. Even though I'm a mulatto, I'm a foundational mulatto American. So I love my foundational Black American family. Now, she spoke about something that's very key. Living in New York as a foundational Black American or a foundational mulatto American and feeling outnumbered by immigrants in the biggest city in our country. Now, if I was to reverse the question and say, all right, you off, I don't know which country you're from, Raven. I don't know if you're Jamaican or Trinidadian, but let's say you have Port of Spain in Trinidad or Kingston, Jamaica. Would Jamaicans or would Trinidadians want foreigners, even if they are Black foreigners, would you want foreigners to outnumber you in the biggest city in your own country? The answer is clearly and unequivocally, no, you wouldn't. So this is another thing. Even if, saludo, buenas tardes, even if we support immigration, and I do not support immigration at all, but it has to be a healthy minimum. Well, I say no immigrants at all, but the point is, even if you support immigration, you don't want immigrants to outnumber you in your own cities.
Right.
So she's literally just expressing the adverse effects of unchecked mass immigration, and she's not wrong for doing that.
Right. So you did ask a question. I'll answer it. Me personally, obviously, I've been raised differently. So regardless of whether if I was living in Jamaica or living in London, or wherever it is, and there's a Black group that's coming in mass for, and this happened in London because of the volcano. Those people came from Montserrat to the area I lived in and stuff. But it's always good to see Black people. The issue you would have is if you have mass Black people coming to your area and they are not synchronized with the Black people who are living there, and they contribute to problematic behaviors that non-Black people historically have done. And I think that's what the argument of contention is being pushed forward. In that context, this is problematic. But seeing Black people from all over the diaspora come to anywhere I live is actually a good thing. Yeah.
And Raven, can we have the dialogue on that? And it'll be brief. You may say that, but with all due respect, matter of fact, I'll give you an example. I was just in the Bahamas. Now, that is a majority Black and mulatto nation, literally. That's exactly what it is. But they are mass deporting Haitians. Why? Because Bahamians do not want to ever be outnumbered in their own country of origin by any group of foreigners, even if these foreigners are black. When I went to Kingston, I've been to Kingston multiple times. When I got there, actually you have an influx of Cuban immigrants of African descent, and you also have Haitians there. But they still minimize the amount of these black foreigners in their country because they have the instinct of self-preservation. And there's nothing wrong with that. So right now what you're seeing amongst the foundational black Americans and the foundational mulatto Americans, we're just practicing self-preservation. We're saying we want to keep our communities majority foundational black American and majority foundational mulatto American. We've
Okay,
already let in too many
here's a
immigrants.
conversation, brother. Here's a conversation. So, are you saying that your understanding is that African Americans, who make up a massive portion of American population, not as much as European, but quite high, are being outnumbered by foreign black people? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I can name the municipalities. If you go to New York City, there are virtually no majority black American communities in New York City. If you go to a majority black community in New York City, chances are it's majority Caribbean, and now they have majority African communities. Same thing with Boston. Well, I'm trying to answer your
Here's the
question, bro,
question.
but
Here's
go
the
ahead.
question. Where are the African Americans that were once there? Where are they?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that. A lot of them have been ethnically displaced back to the southern region of the United States. A lot of them are homeless in New York as well. So it's a combination of both. You have a increase in the homelessness population of Black Americans in New York City, and you have something called the reverse migration, where Black Americans essentially have been priced out of New York City due to mass immigration, and they have returned back to the southern states.
Thanks for that, brother.
Thank you so much. Do you mind, Raven, if I just interject very
Go
briefly
ahead,
on this?
brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I hope the echo is not too bad. Again, sorry if it is. First of all, pleasure to meet you and hear your experience in
Peace,
this space.
King. Yes, sir. Likewise.
Wonderful. If you don't mind, one of the things that could be really helpful in this is seeing some data around it, impartial data if possible. Not to undermine or question your experience, but so when I hear things such as African Americans in major cities are being displaced and are homeless en masse, or having to go to the southern states en masse. I really want to
Yeah,
be able to,
very
just
briefly,
to let me
just so we
see
can
that.
go back and forth. Anyone listening, just look up reverse migration, Black Americans. The
Okay,
information will pop
perfect.
right up. Yes.
Thank you for
Additionally,
that.
no problem at all. Additionally, just research the increase in the homelessness population of Black Americans. Everything I'm saying is readily available. Matter of fact, I can even name a couple of more municipalities where the Black American population is decreasing. In Baltimore, that's a majority Black American city. Their Black American population is decreasing. DC is no longer, that's the nation's capital. DC is no longer majority Black American. Even Detroit, which had the highest population of, percentage wise at least, of Black Americans, their percentage of Black Americans is decreasing. You got Chicago, which is decreasing in their majority Black American population.
Right.
Atlanta's Atlanta's no longer even majority Black American. Matter of fact, Atlanta is approximately 44% Black American. It used to be approximately 80%. Now that percentage has dropped. So literally, this is virtually all across the board in these major cities. The Black American population is decreasing.
Right. So this is really important context for the wider discussion, and obviously as people across the UK and where I'm situated in Australia, where there's individual regional issues here with regards to blackness. All of this stuff is very relevant. But what I hear from this, and again, I really don't mean to approach it in an analytical lens, but what I really hear is resentment around it. And that's the underlying emotion. It's a resentment that black people from from other countries, cultures are coming to the States, and there's a resentment as opposed to a celebration for that. And that for me is also multifaceted, because it sounds to me from your experience that when they do come to these major cities, there's not an integration. There's a lot of talk in Britain, in the UK, around integration and assimilation for migrants or immigrants, and usually there's the underpinning of that is racism, because of this very empirical mindset. However, if you don't mind me just finishing on this point, what I'm really keen to get a better sense of is how that kind of manifests itself in the so-called Black experience for people of other Black countries coming to the States. And also the wider context for me is around how can people's individual countries and cultures be celebrated and be uplifted, as opposed to being seen as a threat which builds resentment. Perhaps
And
this is the
yeah,
question.
let me respond very briefly. And with all due respect, and please mute up. You're creating an echo.
Oh yeah, I will do.
Appreciate you, brother. But don't mute up for long, because I'm about to ask you a question. With all due respect. Now, with all due respect, it's inaccurate to boil it down to the emotion of resentment. Really, I would say most Black Americans that I encounter don't have any emotion towards Black immigrants. Really, it's triggering an instinct of self-preservation, and that's two different things. That's a distinction that must be made. No matter if I love you or hate you, I can't let you outnumber me in my own house. So it has nothing to do with emotions, brother. As far as celebrating the different cultures of the different Black immigrant groups of the diaspora within the U.S., and I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Virtually every major city, we have carnivals, the Caribbean carnivals. Virtually every city in the U.S., they celebrate the various different Independence Days of various different African countries. So really, it's not even on the radio. I was just in the States for Juneteenth. Actually, I was just in the States. Um, Even on the radio, you'll hear African music, Afro beats, and Caribbean dance hall being played on the radios. So it's not a disrespect of the diaspora and cultures of people of African descent. It's literally about the instinct of self-preservation. And I think once we are able, once the Black immigrants are able to understand, that is what's motivating foundational Black Americans and ADOS people right now. Self-preservation. It has nothing to do with emotions. The bottom line is, yeah, I love you, we family, but I can't let you take over my country. I can't let you take over my community. Really. Just like
What
you wouldn't, and I'll say this and land my plane. Just like you would not allow me to take over your community. And let me ask you this: what country? What is your country of origin ethnically?
Was that question to me
Yes, sir, brother.
specifically?
Last.
Okay. So country of origin, traditionally, my parents are from Jamaica, but I'm born in the UK. I
All
currently
right.
reside in Australia, so it's a
No, I
tripartite
hear you.
thing
But
there.
let's talk about Jamaica, though. Let's talk about Jamaica now.
Sure.
In order to, I don't want to trigger an emotional response out of you, so I won't say Black Americans. Let's say we're speaking about Haitians or Trinidadians or Afro Puerto Ricans. I live in Puerto Rico. We'll use Afro Puerto Ricans as an example. Would you want, and brother, please be honest when I ask you this, would you want Afro Puerto Ricans to outnumber ethnic Jamaicans in Jamaica ever? Would you ever want that to take place? Or even in Kingston, the major city? Would you want Afro Puerto Ricans to outnumber Jamaicans in Kingston?
It's a really good question, and it's a fair question, and I guess I'm somewhat aligned with Raven in my mentality here, because of the Black British context. Our understanding around covetousness of identities, I think, somewhat different to yours in America, and this is where the cultural identity really does play a part. To answer your question specifically, I don't have a horse in the race in Jamaica, as it were, because I'm somewhat removed from it. Would I want another culture to come to my father's parish in Jamaica and be the dominant culture? Perhaps not. Perhaps not.
Thank you.
I see that there's a beauty to the preservation of culture, of lineage, of identity. These are really important things. I guess what I'm really trying to understand better, and I'm not at all necessarily challenging you on, but I really do want to understand it better, is the idea of what sounds like a threat. I didn't hear the word you used when you were dispelling my word of resentment, which is just how I received it from the videos that have been played. You used another word because the video cut out. What was the word you used?
Yes, and once again, just for the listeners, I have to articulate, no, it has nothing to do with resentment or any emotions. Really, it's an instinct of self-preservation. And really, you just acknowledged it, and I'll pass the mic right back to you because I feel like you was about to make a point. So I'll limit this response to one sentence. You actually are acknowledging the sentiment of foundational Black Americans and ADOS people. Whether we hate you or love you, we cannot allow you to take over our communities, our country. And you, just like you would not want foreigners to take over your father's parish in Jamaica. So we have that in common. So literally, we are in agreement. So I'm listening. What is the point you was about to make?
So much appreciated again for that additional context. I guess from my perspective, the key thing in all of this is the way language is used as well. So
Yeah.
when I hear take over, when I hear these are the kind of words that sound like invasion. These are very prominent words around migration right now, and this is where the feeling, and again it could be wrong, and you've corrected me twice around this feeling of resentment, but it's almost like an attack, as opposed to, I guess, the Black British mentality, because been so much movement from the motherland, from Africa, then to the Caribbean, and then onto Britain, because of that tripartite movement, right? And that migration, there's a feeling around the movement and the travel of people that might be different to the mentality of some African Americans, where African America is your sole identity, it's your home. And I'm aware, just from, again, my own family in the States, and also just the data en masse, that the global travel of African Americans is far less, just because of where you're situated, than other blacks in the diaspora, black people in the diaspora from Britain and so on. So like I said, I'm currently situated in Australia. That's where I reside.
No, I
So,
hear you.
and as a result of that, it very much cultivates a different mentality around who's coming, who's going, excuse me, who's welcomed, who's not. How do people integrate? How do they not? Is culture shared? Is it not? And so this word for me of covetousness, there's a covetousness around what you're explaining, of this is my home and I don't want anyone else taking what's mine. And I
Exactly.
think that it's really important what you're highlighting. I don't want you to feel at all that is being dismissed, or that it's being in any way confronted in a negative context. I think it's really important, and it's very educational, particularly for me. But however, what I really do feel is important is to perhaps switch the mentality somewhat and see it as how can the solution to this be something that is mutually beneficial for all parties, if that makes sense. Maybe that's somewhat
Hear
naive.
me out, brother.
Maybe that's naive. I don't know, but I'll be quiet. That's the question that I would ask.
And I'll answer your question, but I want to address two things you made, two comments you made before. Number one, illegal immigration is definitely an invasion. And when I spoke about taking over, I'm speaking about demographically. If we allow, when I say we, I'm speaking about foundational Black Americans, foundational mulatto Americans, American descendants of slavery. If we allow foreigners to outnumber us in our communities, they have literally taken over the school boards, the city councils, the mayor office, the senators' positions, the congressional positions. So that's what I meant by taking over. It's something that we cannot allow out of self-preservation. We cannot allow it. And
So, Brother Pan,
I was trying to answer his last question, but go ahead, brother.
no, before this quick thing. So, can you give me the city, the state, or where it is where African Americans are outnumbered by another ethnic black group?
Yeah, offhand, I'll give you two. If you look at New York City, and you can look at Miami, Florida.
So, what you're saying is, in New York City, there are more of a particular black group than Afro Americans. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying there are more Black immigrants and more foreign blacks in New York City and Miami than it
Right.
is Black
So,
Americans. Yes.
just to confirm, so what you're saying is you're collating, say, Black Haitians, Afro Puerto Ricans, Black Jamaicans, Ethiopians, all as a collective black body, and that collective black body is greater than the African Americans individually. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely.
So, but the thing is, though, I suspect then you must feel the same way about any foreign group in New York. Is that right?
Definitely.
Right. Okay. Because they're going to say that obviously, even though from a Black Betterment and Pan African standpoint, we would love all the black people to be united. Those groups will probably not be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not actually going to be united. So when it comes to taking over, you might, obviously, and they probably you won't count this or care for this, but if you have a Jamaican having one place and then the Ethiopian take another place, you can say that's black people generally, but they might not see a connection between themselves. They're just seeing they're all going for the spot and they got it. If that makes sense.
Yes, and the point is they have taken positions and they've taken over demographically communities where Black Americans used to be the majority. And brother, the question you asked me, you said, let's find a mutually beneficial solution, and that's the part I want to address the most. Now, I'll be honest, the most mutually beneficial solution is for, and this is what's taking place right now in the U.S., is for a reduction in the total number of immigrants that come to the U.S. That benefits foundational Black Americans and foundational mulatto Americans because we get to preserve more of our communities instead of having them taken over by immigrants. Additionally, this benefits the countries that the Black immigrants come from because it reduces the brain drain. Or in other
Right.
words, these same, well, go ahead. It sounds like you understand my point. I'm
I was
listening.
gonna say, so I was going to say this, right? If you said that in your estimation, African Americans really wanted to believe that when other black people came towards in historical path to America, that they were going to join to help Black Americans progress, or just black people in general progress. What activities are those? So if you were like a magic genie, you could just wish something to, because people are here now, and because they're here now, they have to have a behavioral pattern. What behavioral pattern would they be having that you would like them to have that you feel they haven't had yet?
And I'm glad you asked that. Really, I was speaking about the desires or the presumptions that my ancestors had when they fought for the immigrants to come to the U.S. Me being realistic, and I'm not disrespecting my ancestors when I say that, but me growing up with these different immigrant groups, I realized that it's every man for themselves. It's every ethnic group for themselves.
Hold on,
So,
brother. Let's have a one before you say that. The question I'm asking is,
yeah, I'm trying to answer that, brother.
oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
'Cause you seem like you're going to something else. Go
Yes,
ahead.
bro. I'm trying to answer that question,
Go ahead.
brother. Ideally, the ideology that I want to see these black immigrants have, because that's who you asked me about, the black immigrants. I
There you
want to
go.
see them have the ideology to stay in their countries of origin and fix them. That's what I
Hold on,
want to
bro.
see.
Hold on, bro. The question was, there was a thought process of when these individual black groups are going to come to America. There's a way they can behave that can benefit the collective black people or African Americans in the land of America. What was that behavioral pattern that you'd like to see?
Yes, you're asking me what I would like to see. Are you asking what my
No, no, no,
ancestors
bro.
who fought for them to come here, what did they expect?
Well, what it was, brother, it was you seem to have agreements that that you and your ancestors thought that when Black Americans were going to come to America, Black diasporans were going to come to America,
Yes.
they were going to behave in a way that was conducive to a form of betterment. What was that? What was that? What did that look like? What
Yes,
activities?
that's what my ancestors thought. So I'm speaking for them right now. My
Okay, so
ancestors,
yeah,
I'm trying to answer that, brother. My
go ahead.
ancestors thought that when the black immigrants got to the U.S., they
Yes,
would, number one, assimilate with the black American community.
right.
Additionally, they would not undermine us by fighting against reparations for descendants of U.S. chattel slaves. They would fight
Four,
to,
four.
for what? For what?
So here's the question I'm trying to get: would it be a good idea if the African and Caribbean black people who are in your land now today, the land that you're part of, actually were a force to fight with you to maximize the chances of African Americans receiving reparations? Would that be a good thing?
Well, of course, that would be a great thing. They owe us
Okay,
that, but I'm not
okay.
expecting it.
No. Right now, because we're saying a person who has seen this kind of perceived or realistic negativity, they're not going to necessarily have a solution-based mindset. But someone who is solution-based is going to say, okay, what is broken down? What needs to be done? So if your ancestors did believe that that was the goal,
Absolutely.
that seems to be what a campaign should be like, establishing black people's knowledge or acknowledgement on what reparations is and why African Americans need it, and are they going to play a part in helping get that, or are they going to sabotage it? If they sabotage, then they need reform, and the reform needs to come from the groups they're coming from. So if I see a Afro-Caribbean talk about, I don't want African Americans to have reparations because I'm not going to get none, it'll be, for me who practice black betterment, I have to approach them and go, this is completely unsynchronized, and what has motivated you to do this? Because you need reform. You can't move to another country and then sabotage their efforts to actually heal from a particular pain that was given to their particular ancestors. Meanwhile, in the country you come from, you want reparations. You see, so what I'm saying is there's problematic behavioral patterns from every single ethnic group in the diaspora, every single one, right? And what we try to do is make sure that when they say a self-sabotaging individual comes to an ethnic group, we don't try to paint the entire ethnic group. And one of the ways we can do that is understanding the ideology of the person. So that's why black betterment, when you come to me, anything you tell me that is constructive for African Americans, we're going to agree.
Yes, but respectfully, Raven, and even in this conversation, and I don't know if it's a cultural misunderstanding, but even in this conversation, you're missing the point that I'm making entirely. With all due respect,
no, I understand the point.
I make. Well, the point
Can I
I'm
ask you a
making.
question, Pan?
Well, let me complete the sentence, and then.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish your question, Brother Pan.
Yes, I appreciate that, Raven. The point I'm making is this: Black Americans and mulatto Americans, with all due respect, we don't need black immigrants to help us with anything. Actually, it's your families in the countries that you abandoned and fled. They need you more than black Americans and mulatto Americans need you. So instead of helping us fight for reparations in the U.S., go back to your countries and help fight.
Now, Brother Pan, before Brother Leaf comes in,
Yes,
what you've done that's very important is you've expressed a campaign that was fed to you, right? So the word and the verbiage you're using is what's circulating, and I think it's genius and stuff, right? But what happens is how your ancestors were talking was a different campaign, and it was how can black people come into the country to actually do beneficial things for black people in general, right? While the new narrative, the new campaign is, well, you guys fled, you might as well flee back and fix yourself rather than fix us here because you're sabotaging what we're doing. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, or it isn't happening or isn't happening. What I'm saying is, if let's go with the narrative that wrong was done, because I'm trying to push the conversation. The question is, what could be done to right wrong? Yeah.
Well, Raven, I've said it more than once, and you've cut me off each time, brother. With all due respect, that's how you right the wrong. Go back to your countries of origin and help your families that are there in squalor. Matter of fact, CARICOM has a reparation movement of their own. Go back to the Caribbean and fight for reparations for the CARICOM. We don't need you in the U.S. as foundational Black Americans or foundational mulatto Americans.
Here's what it is. Before the brother jumps
All
in.
right, brother. Let's not get anything confused with the truth. So go ahead.
Thank you. Well, here's what it is, right? The diaspora black people are already there, and they're already going to be living and integrating certain things in it. So, and a big portion of them, especially from certain kind of countries, have already engaged in certain programs where money and resources are sent back to build up their land. That I'm aware of that in the UK, because obviously this is my job to know about this, right? And I'm aware that there are African and Caribbean Americans who do similar things, right? It's almost integrated in some of their cultures. So that's going on. But the fact of it is, from a Black Betterment standpoint, if black people are around each other, there is a value in understanding the challenges and working in unison to fix it. Because unfortunately, even though we might be prone to fight each other because we enjoy it for some kind of reason, there are non-black people who are actually historically and today more geared towards removing assets and institutions and all that from black people, and inward squabbling and this kind of stuff really does fall in that their hands easier. So that's why we're asking hypothetically, what activities could black people do living in America that benefits the black experience in America?
All right, and Raven, with all due respect, and you cut me off literally the last 4 times I've tried to speak, and I'm literally completing one sentence. The question is, and you named your movement the Black Betterment Movement. You know, I did not create that movement. The question is, how is it Black Betterment when Africans and Caribbeans are literally abandoning black nations to live in majority white nations. And when we bring up, all right, why not go back to these black nations and help them out? You want to deflect? How's that black betterment, brother?
Well, Brother Liv has a
Question.
question. Let him say.
Can
Go
I
ahead. Say your question.
Yeah, run from that. Go ahead, brother. We listening, King.
can I
Now,
just interject there, or was it?
Brother
Or
Moose
was
is
it?
here as well. So after Brother Moose,
Musa. Okay,
let
go ahead.
all right,
let
big
his
up,
question.
big up the panel. Big up the
Big up,
panel.
big up.
Everybody in the panel. I like the conversation.
Every
Very
time.
insightful. Now, I'm asking a question in relation to what you lot are talking about. Yeah, is we've got certain unifying characters. For example, Malcolm X, who is a symbol of black pride in America, in Black America. But Malcolm X is also, his roots are Afro-Caribbean, Grenada. He's part Caribbean and he's part African American because he's
Yes, yes.
one of his parents come from Grenada, and he's
His
also
mother.
got, yes, and he's also mixed because he light skinned and he's got, you know, some type
A
of white in him.
mulatto. Yeah.
He could also pass with this mulatto and pan mulatto, and you know, he can fall under that bracket too. But and also he went to Africa. So Malcolm X has got Caribbean roots. He's got black nationalists or black American, a symbol of black American patriotism and pride.
Oh, have you been cut, brother? Oh, is that me? Is that? Can anyone?
No, he went out. We listening, King, if you're able to hear us.
Yeah, brother. I think you've been cut.
Can you hear me?
Well, we know we can.
You're back. Yeah, we hear
Go
you.
ahead. Go ahead, family.
Okay, can I finish? Can I finish my point?
You go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you, when you got like unifying characters like that, yeah, where obviously we can get lost in the nuances of black because there's a lot of nuances with black and black immigrants and the Afro Caribbeans and the immigrant Africans and then the African Americans, and they've all got like similar experience, different experiences. Some of them have similar, some of them have different, and sometimes they don't all see eye to eye. But is there room to bridge the gap? If we can't all unify, then we all need to be a leader of our. There needs to be leadership, Caribbean leadership in the Caribbean, Black American leadership or whatever in the America, and then Black leadership in Africa. And then we can't all see eye to eye, but we can at least have relations with each other, like trade relations, economic relations, because we've had a very 500 years has been very culturally diverse for us, and we've had things that have shaped our character, even not just mentality or philosophy or belief, but even genetically. Like I get where some of the things that Pan Malata was saying and why he thinks the way he thinks, and you can't take those experiences away from him. I mean, a lot of things that Tiger Woods used to talk about was fair because Tiger Woods wasn't just black; he was black and he was Asian. And then people tried to put him in a box, and he said, "No, I come from a black parent, I come from an Asian parent, and I am what I am in it. You can't force me to think like you just because I appear to be black on the surface. I've got other things going on in my DNA, and I want that to be recognized, which is fair, innit? But there is, if we can harness this talent that we've got about black and admixture, because that's really what happened 500 years by way of immigration and also by way of raping by the slave master and etc. We have what we call admixture and different genetics that are in the gene pool now. So we can either embrace that diversity and work with it as it can be helpful to us in moving forward, or it can be detrimental for us if we hold on to the negative about that experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the key word I heard from you, Musa, there was
I'll be hear me. Well, thanks, but
unifying.
yeah, we understand what you're saying, brother.
That was the key word.
Thanks for jumping in. And before, because I know Brother Lev wanted to say something, I'll say this: in the 90s, around hip hop, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there's been plenty of African and Caribbean immigrants who moved in through their parents, and they were heavily integrated into the African American community, and they were working in one. So that's why they will become a foundational pillar in some institution or something like that. But they are definitely working for the collective betterment of Black people in general in the Americas, and that's why today there's so many you didn't even know were from Ghana, Jamaica, or Barbados, you name it, right? Because there was
Biggie Smalls is
so something has happened in
is
recent times
Jamaican.
where there is this kind of like acknowledgement and separation of ethnic groups to a negative effect, not a positive effect, to a negative effect. Here in London, I'm not saying it's all this and that, whatever, but because if you type Black London, Black British, it'll be registered as a multi-ethnic group, meaning that it's a collection of a collection, right? Because it's a collection of a collection, we understand how to come together to an extent, but also respect and acknowledge the difference in our ethnic groups and backgrounds and countries. You see, but when something goes wrong, that's when the civil wars happen. But let me not talk because Brother Liv wanted to say something. So go ahead, Brother Liv.
No, it's just very simple. It's kind of reiterating what you were
Brother
saying
Liv, you still there?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we hear you, brother.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just
guys,
very
hello?
simply. I'm here, Raven.
I don't know if that messes things up. Can you hear me? Brother Liv might be doing some work stuff. So
No, Lev was talking.
For those joining, we're talking about the diaspora wars. Well, actually, it's inter-ethnic conflict, I think is what we call it. And we'll listen to some videos. I mean, we can't listen to this entire video is like 2 hours long. It's like, so we're listening, but it collates complaints between different ethnic groups based in the States. And we're trying to get an understanding of certain challenges. So it might, so we can work on solutions or things that's beneficial. And we're just getting perspective of the panel. Any questions, feel free. Been a very fruitful discussion in, it's me.
Raven, you can't hear us, bro.
Oh, hold on. Okay.
Yeah, bro. Lev
I
was
can hear
talking.
you.
Can anyone hear me on the panel?
Yeah, we hear you.
I can hear you, Rap.
Oh, snap. It's my damn PC, man. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I plugged my. Can you hear me, guys? Sorry about.
Yeah, we hear you, bro.
I can hear you.
Sorry, sorry, I've got some. I've got some sound card external on it, and it might if it cuts off. Let me disconnect it. I'm not do that anymore. Sorry, that's why you get some fancy sound card. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So if I was talking over you guys, I didn't mean to. I couldn't hear anything. There you go.
No
So,
problem.
Can hear you, bro.
Yeah, bro. I think I did say, Brother Liv. Did you have your say? You want to say something?
Yeah, no problem at all, Raven. It's technology, it happens. The key thing I wanted to kind of just reiterate from what Musa was saying was the word unifying. I think that's a really important word, and the context and the example you gave of Malcolm X was a really good one, because again, Malcolm X had that kind of multifaceted experience: Caribbean parent, African American experience, Jim Crow experience. And of course, his major mentor was Frantz Fanon, who also had that. I'm sure you're all aware of Frantz Fanon and his, being a psychiatrist and his experience of
Yes, 100%.
And for me, Frantz Fanon is one of my personal heroes, just because of not only the work he did at the time he did it, and the mentality he adopted in terms of black betterment, for lack of a better term, throughout the diaspora. He recognized the unifying a solidarity within that. Yes, it was a different time. Yes, we're talking Jim Crow era, and the ripple effects of slavery so close to that time. But I fundamentally respect Brother Pan Mulatto's lived experience. I know that's become an overused term, which is a bit airy-fairy now, but I respect it, and I respect your forthrightness in your views and what have you. But what I hear, and again, I could be wrong. I put my hands up to that. But what I hear is a lot of somewhat bitterness around this, as opposed to, and that bitterness may be accurate, I don't know, but as opposed to a mentality of, we're in this circumstance, how can we make the best of it, other than suggesting that people so-called go home to their own countries, because that sounds like division as opposed to unity. So best case scenario for me is always thinking about what is the unifying factors, where are the common goals, how can people be better educated, informed, enlightened, and how can we make that a collectively better experience for all, as opposed to just saying, you go, you fix your place, you be divisionistic, and then from there, or divisionist rather, and then from there, you go and fix your place and leave us to do what we're doing. That to me sounds somewhat more like a colonial mindset, and that's not an attack. It just sounds like that to me. Then the kind of spiritual attitude you hear, for example, when I was in Africa for 3 months last year, it's all about that kind of unifying essence. So
And
I just wanted to
Lev,
say that
and I hear you, Lev.
and leave that there. Yes, my
Lev,
brother.
let me ask you a brief question, brother. Don't you realize if Jamaicans, pardon me, if Caribbeans and Africans went back to Africa, actually that would be unifying your families. Don't you realize that? So what I'm saying has nothing to do with division. Additionally, are you able to articulate, because more than once you have, with all due respect, you've attempted to mischaracterize me with different emotions such as resentment and bitterness. Are you able to articulate anything I said that sounded resentful or bitter, just so we can have that dialogue?
I don't think he was
No,
saying
no,
that.
no, no. So sometimes the the way in which a thing is said is the emotion that it conveys. And I promise you, I don't know you, bro. So I'm just hearing what I'm hearing. And believe it or not, I'm informed enough to make these kind of assessments, being a social psychologist. So I'm not throwing my academic into this. It's just how I receive it. And I've said several times I could be wrong. Because again, I don't know you. I haven't assessed
No,
you.
no, I hear you, but
I
just for
can
the
only go.
listeners, just for the listeners,
Absolutely,
are you able to
absolutely.
articulate anything I said that sounded bitter or resentful, just so we can have a
So,
dialogue?
so more so around the when Raven kind of probed you with the questions around what would, if you were, I think, and I hope I'm paraphrasing correctly. Raven said, "What would the best solution look like if you were a genie, or if you had wishes, or whatever it may have been? What would the best solution look like based on the circumstance we're in?" And initially, you spoke about your ancestors and what their vision was, and then subsequent to that, you said everyone goes back to their country, builds up their country, and does what. So to me, that sounds, as opposed to, you could have said, for example, said, well, people are here now. It's, in my view, it's too divided. I don't like the fact that, as you articulated, that there are people from different nations that are the presiding number over African Americans. However, what we could do is inform them, integrate them, educate them as to how to better respect African American culture. That, to me, sounds like
Yes.
dialogue that's more unifying as
And
opposed to
and you see how brief my responses is, because I'm truly trying to have a dialogue with you. As far as my point about the Caribbeans and the Africans returning back to Africa and the Caribbean to develop their countries of origin, wouldn't that benefit the Caribbean and Africa?
perhaps in part,
Yes.
perhaps in
All right.
part. But I guess the point was around your experience of the reality you're in. You see, the reality you're in is that there are black people of different countries and nations in the States. They're there. And so if you're suggesting that a mass migration back to these countries is a realistic reality, I'm not sure I can
Well,
comprehend that.
let me tell you how realistic it is. They mass migrated to the U.S. and to the U.K. and to Canada. So you're telling me that they cannot mass migrate to their countries of origin to fix them?
That's a fair point, but I think, again, as we know historically, and I've
So,
been saying this factually and truthfully, migration has taken place over generations.
That's
It's
what I'm
happened
speaking
over
about.
years.
Well, brother, that's
So
what I'm
so you're
speaking about.
so you're
Remember,
therefore, so there, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. So therefore, what you're suggesting is that the children, the sons and daughters of those who have migrated, migrate back to their countries of origin. Is that the suggestion you're making?
Yes, even the immigrants themselves. Yes. If you
Yeah.
could
So,
pick up, well, let me say one sentence and I'll pass the mic, please.
say one
If
thing.
you
Don't
can
say
pick up, because the listeners need to hear this, really. If you can pick up and leave a black country to live in a majority white country, you can leave that majority white country and move back to your black country of origin, respectfully.
big up. So we're joined by a new person, Jeff. I should have said brother Jeff. Uh, welcome to the Blackburn broadcast. Do you have a perspective on these topics at all, brother?
Yeah, I did, man. Shout out to everybody on the panel. I'm actually American, and I'm actually from the South, Mississippi to be exact. And so, kind of to piggyback off what Pam Malata was saying, I think the brother took it, the tone, the way he delivered it. But I get what Pan is saying. You know, as we come together, you know, because I think somebody used the term like, well, you know, the bitterness or resentment that African Americans have, we don't have that. You know, we want to celebrate our brothers and sisters that comes to the United States, but often they're told when they get here, you know, don't fool with those African Americans. They're thugs, they're gangsters, and you know, so they come to the States with this mindset of like, okay, well, we can't get too close to them because we'll be put in the same melting pot as them. And it's not like that. And we're just welcoming you guys. A lot of times we try to reach out, you know, we want to learn about the culture from like maybe we have ancestors from the countries that we meet these people from or whatever. And it's like they kind of are standoffish and they came to visit us and we just want to reach out and kind of like be a part of it. So I agree with Pan as far as like, hey, if you can come over here, build yourself up, and we can have these conversations as Black, whether, you know, whatever ethnic background you come from, you know, we can come together with these ideas. And hey, you could take those ideas in this predominantly white country, you come over here and build yourself up, and you can go back to your own and take what you learn over here and build your own. I think it was just the tone that I get it. I get what he was saying. It wasn't like,
Exactly.
you know, it was bitterness or nothing like that. But you know, so that was my comment on it.
Well,
Big up, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Jeff, can I pose something to you? Jeff and Pan Malato, can I pose something to you? Like diversity can be a strength. Doesn't have to be a handicap. Yeah, it can be a strength because you got on one hand you got Akon, who's from Senegal. He's an immigrant from Senegal, but he's a big time, singer in hip hop. You got Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls, his roots is Jamaican. His family was they immigrated from Jamaica. He's one of the greatest hip hop rappers of all time. Is what I'm trying to say to you. The immigration and the diversity from the Black world, it can be a strength, whether it be from the Caribbean, whether it be from Africa. I understand going back to these respective places and building it, but we can share in ideas and across landscape. Is what I'm trying to say to you. In the same way, Europeans haven't lost their connection to Europe. When white Americans came to America, they didn't cut off their connections with Europe. White America is still connected to Europe, which is the land of their fathers. Europe is still connected to Australia, which is the land of the white Australians' fathers. New Zealand's still connected to Europe, which is the land of their fathers. So all these other people, they didn't give up their connection. Chinese diaspora is still connected to China, the motherland. You see what I'm trying to say? The Japanese diaspora is still connected to Japan, the motherland.
Bro, we hear your point,
So
but can I say one sentence? I promise it'll be
talk to
brief.
me.
If that's the
Talk
metaphor
to me.
that you're using, essentially what we're saying is, all right, if Africa is one of our fatherlands, then we just telling our cousins that are from Africa, go fix Africa. When we come to our daddy house, we don't want it to be a bunch of Chinese running everything and Indians and Pakistanis.
Well
How can
said.
you not
I
understand
agree.
that, bro?
I understand it fully. I agree with you on that one. They should. They should. We're being way too lax, way too soft, way too lenient with people running our. Well, black people in Africa are not doing enough. They
So,
should have done. They should have made. They basically black Africans should have made Africa hospitable for African Americans and the Caribbeans to come home and feel welcome. We shouldn't have ran away from Africa
Exactly.
to give
Yes,
the
sir.
fight to Chinese, to give the rule to Chinese people or Arabs or whatever, and then start complaining from America and about
so
Africa and how we're gonna.
these
We shouldn't have done that.
these are very good points, and I think brother Jeff, who jumped on, it's very interesting to talk to you, bro, because what you've said, as well as what brother Pan has said, is what the research I've been doing, as in the kind of complaints and the history of being intrigued with black people from Africa and the Caribbean coming to America, thinking there might be some kind of unity aside, but experiencing a very standoffish mentality. Obviously, that's not across the board, but the experience that you're describing is important because we want solutions for it. And the same thing, these kind of behavioral patterns we see in all over the diaspora. And what I mean by that is, if you were to go to Jamaica, if African was to go to Jamaica, if the African was to interact with the Garveyites or the Rastafarians, the Pan-Africans, they would feel embraced and loved. But if they were to hang around with the Queen's English Jamaicans, then they'll be standoffish, you see. And what I'm saying, that's why ideology matters. And that's why having a Pan-African or Black nationalist for Black betterment ideology, it allows us to synchronize better because we know that there is a shared goal. But unfortunately, left alone, without any kind of organization, almost every Black person without any kind of education will be anti-Black, because it's very easy to be anti-self in this world. This is something that other groups won't really have, because their natural culture they have teach them to be self-preserving and grand collective, meaning whether they're white Australian or European Australian or American, American, European, whatever it might be, they'll find a way to synchronize. So the question is, as I was on before, what's the best way? And the strategy I'm putting is listening to the grievances of what African Americans are saying, and then having that bigger conversation with people from the diaspora who behave that way, so they can be reformed. And then we have a part two, as in, okay, this was what's been learned, this is what motivated. But I suspect, in the instance where that happens, I strongly suspect anti-Black racism and self-hatred and white supremacy will be at the heart of what's motivating these behavioral patterns.
Absolutely. And you know, Raven, the reason and how that's evidenced is quite simple. It exists globally, as you say. Like I said, I'm here in Australia. Australia, for those who don't know, is a Black country in its origin. It's currently, unfortunately, a white majority, similar to what happened in South Africa, a place that I was in last year for a couple of months. But my goal in being here is to very much continue the work I do in bridging. And bridging is around psychological bridging for Black people. So there are Black islanders all in, people may not know this, Australia is extremely diverse, even though there is a white majority. There's islanders from the Pacific Islanders, Tongans, Fijians, Aboriginals, Torres Strait Islanders, who are essentially all islanders around this continent that are in Australia. And their experience is similar to what's going on in the Caribbean, the colonial enslaved experience. So you hear this kind of, the disconnect that Raven's talking about, the disconnect that Pan and Jeff, you highlight, that exists beyond just the States. This feeling of them and us. It's not just your, this isn't unique to you, respectfully.
No. And I'm just gonna play this video and stop it for 4 seconds.
Have realised that in the
so what I'm showing you, this is a sister who has a European father and a African Black mother. She's based in the UK, but I'm just using a case study because look at what she says about how she reacts to pain. Right, look at this.
I have realised that in the last kind of 6 years, maybe a bit longer actually, I've only kind of had long-term relationships with white men.
Okay.
And I've been in therapy for 4 years. I didn't realise, and I'm realising it now, and it's really hard for me to admit it actually, like out of my mouth, is like I've totally been seeking validation from white men because of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And because the only men that made me feel ugly were white men when I was a kid. I almost went the other way. And now I've been like, over the last few years, been finding myself really trying to seek that validation from them. Tell me I'm beautiful, because for 18 years of my life, you told me that I was ugly. And my father's white. So that's also confusing because my dad is the best. And he loves my mum, my gorgeous, gorgeous mum who is Black. So I don't have other than those kids, I don't have a bad representation of a white man in my life. I have a brilliant one. So I think I always was like, well, maybe I'm looking for my dad in men.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm seeing that, no, it's not that at all. I've been trying to heal that small part of me and that baby version of me. And now it's really funny because I have been kind of, now that I'm able to admit that and say that and really think about it, I'm realizing actually I've been closing myself off to a whole world of people who maybe I'm going to connect with more because of that. Part of me is like, that's amazing that I'm now seeing that, but I'm also really sad. And now I feel like I'm mourning my childhood and all the things that I maybe missed out on because I was so focused, so hyper focused on on men seeing me as beautiful, and a specific kind of man seeing me as beautiful. And also, I feel like I'm mourning a bit of my 20s.
So this sister, she was saying that she wherever she was raised, what European men would mistreat her for her phenotype and not looking white, this kind of stuff, and rather than do what you might think that a person would do, as in like, well then okay, I'll just stick to my own, or I'll go the opposite way. She was always trying to get validation. And this same behavioral pattern we see here, we see maybe when Caribbeans or Africans might go to America, and rather than uniting with people who have a similar struggle, they then go for, unfortunately, the other groups, trying to validate with them or try to separate from this group, so the other group will accept them more. You see, and unfortunately, this behavior pattern we see across the diaspora in so many different ways, whether dealing with ethnic groups, mixture groups, nationalities. Unfortunately, this behavior pattern. I mean, I think what's his name? Tiger Woods was mentioned earlier. And Tiger Woods was bullied by white boys and this kind of stuff, and harmed her, but he was still factuated by being with a European woman, even though one ran off with half of his fortune, this kind of stuff, right? So it's like, this is the thing where on the system we're in, it's very easy for black people to ignore what the historical oppressive of black people have done, and even look for validation. Like if they punch you in the face, you're concerned out if their hands is okay. But when other black people are in a similar boat or have a similar history, you're anti that. You don't even care. You don't want to synchronize with that at all. And that's why we need ideologies that can actually highlight this and reform it. Because left alone, it is very easy for people of African descent or black descent to hate each other. It's very easy. It's almost part of the strategy of the anti-black racists to do that. Self-governance of self-destruction.
So add to what you're saying, Rap Raven. It's not so simple, because a lot of the black community, I can look, if we're talking about, if we use America, for example, yeah, a lot of the black community is under-resourced, and it's very criminalized. It's very violent. It's hard to be black or remain in a thriving or progressive black community in America, because it's hard to find them. So you can't say, okay, because we just find strength in ourselves. The black community is smashed almost in many places around the world. The black community is smashed. It's very criminalized, very violent. I know I've been to America, and I know Americans that's come from America to Britain. And they said there's a big difference between white America and black America. Black America is violent, very destructive, very dangerous. White Americans are not like black Americans. White Americans, they have communities that are progressive, helpful, resourced. If you need help,
Respectfully, brother, I apologize for cutting you off, but I got to say this about America. No, brother, with all due respect, you are actually wrong. There are millions of impoverished white Americans
Yes,
that grew up in trailer parks and public
Exactly.
housing.
very
So
true.
the
you cannot
experience
say that.
the
Let me jump
experience
in
is not the
before.
same, bro.
Hold on, Musa. Just to add to that, there is definitely going to be dynamics in America of affluent, well-to-do communities of African Americans, as well as European Americans and white Americans, as well as trailer park kind of community from the Europeans, as well as
Not the same, bro.
say
Not
it
the
again.
same, bro. It's not
Well,
the same. It's not even equal, bro. It's not equal. You cannot
well, hold
compare
on,
black
hold on,
America
hold
to
on,
white America.
hold on. But I'm not disagreeing with you, bro. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah, they're not even, but the comparison's not even close.
hold on.
I'm, I'm not gonna lie to myself and pretend like black America is like white America. It isn't. It's not even
well,
close.
well,
Well, brother,
there
I
is.
can name some.
Well,
Well,
hold
go
on.
ahead,
No,
man.
before we get there, because I'm going to say something. Uh, Overall, we understand that Europeans hold a monopoly in most things in the world, right? No matter where they're based. So, so just like in South Africa, there's going to be poor whites and rich whites and poor blacks and rich black. We understand the overall dynamics of power will always shift towards the Europeans and the white because of the history. So that
Yeah.
we make clear. But what I'm saying, what's valuable is we've got two African Americans or people of Black African European descent here on the panel. So their opinions on this is even if it wherever it comes up is important, and how he delivers is very important, because remember we're trying to have a dialogue, that can amend certain challenges that might have happened, might not have happened, right? So listening to what they're saying at a certain point might be part of that part of that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not dismissing or ignoring it. I'm just saying I'm calling a spade, isn't it? Like one community over generations, has been neglected.
Your microphone might go, of course, and I think we can all agree that Europeans have a grand dominance of economics in most lands they go in because of their history of how they acquired wealth and how on code they are in certain behavioral patterns. And I think Robin Walker was said before, where he was discussing the same issue about the if I had this video, I don't know if I was good, but he was on the show where he was talking. Robin Walker is a brother from England. He's
the one who wrote the book When We Ruled.
A very important book. If you ever got that, read that one. Very important book. But he was saying that he spent a lot of time in America as well. He said that what he found was America has a middle class and a working class that's quite separate from the impoverished community. But and they might not even really interact too much. But what he was saying is the biggest challenge you're going to find is that just coming from an impoverished place in general. Makes it very hard to collectively build because you're dealing with that challenge every single day. And he also acknowledged that what he said, there was Afro-Caribbeans and Africans who went to America and messed things up in the sense of their behavioral pattern of being high nose and high brow, whatever, towards African Americans. That behavioral pattern is what is causing what we're seeing today. So this is probably one of the greatest Black historians in the UK, probably the world, if that's just who's around and the materials around. And he's saying he's analyzed this, and that's what he's presented. So this is what I'm saying. It's about collating information and trying to find a solution, really. Brother Jeff, now let's guys, we normally do a 2-hour show, but Brother Jeff, it would be good if you came back because I would definitely, because obviously we've got many people on the panel. I'll big up to Brother Pan and Brother Liv, definitely, and Musa. And obviously it's Jeff and Liv's first time, so we have to give them a thanks and a praise for jumping on. But Brother Jeff, we are interested in finding out what's going on you're from the South, is that correct?
Yeah.
So your opinions matter, you see, and it would be good if you came back at some point, maybe next week or whatever, for us to have this, because I would like to ask questions on that, because I'm aware of certain tensions between groups coming in, and one thing for us is, we want to be a part of the process that offers solutions or understanding, yeah. And if there is a high flux of Afro-Caribbean Africans, wherever, our job is to reform them, because we understand that the African American history, when it comes to your ancestors, when it comes to like Francis Cresswellski and Neely Fuller and you name it, Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I'm trying to think of people who are from that, and the many, right? They've really given us the path of what we should be doing. That's globally, right? So if Black people come into America and not stick to the script, we have to reform them, because the understanding is if you are American and you try to reform them, then it might be seen as an inter-ethnic kind of battle. But if their own ethnic group is saying, you need to correct yourself, then we find better solutions.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get it, man. Just like the guy you was quoting, like, about we talk about the Black neighborhoods are crime ridden and stuff like that, and that's kind of like the propaganda that's put out there. And so when we get our brothers and sisters that come in, and what I haven't heard in this discussion, I've been listening for like an hour and a half, is like people like the FBAs and ADOF, it's like a divisor, but it's kind of like the same goal. But you got to realize our people were brought over here against our will, as opposed to people that have an opportunity to come over here, which is their decision, and make a better living for themselves. So when they get here, it's like, they're not taught about redlining and why the majority of Black people are in these crime-ridden neighborhoods, because they've been redlined in their voting process and they poor neighborhoods and poor schools. They don't tell you that. It's like, they're ghetto, they're violent and all this. And they don't tell you why. And so when our brothers and sisters come over here, it's like, I can't deal with them because I don't want to be stereotyped cast like them, when I was given opportunity to come over here, as opposed to their ancestors were forcibly brought over here.
Brother Jeff, what you're saying is the research I'm doing, and that's why you're very important, because I think you jumped on before. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? You've been one time before.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
talked one part before. Yeah.
yeah. My memory's not as good as it once was, but I do remember the way you did you're putting information. It's jogging my memory. And brother, the way you deliver information is important, and that's what I've been researching, and that is a fundamental, key, important thing where there is an experience that the majority of African Americans have gone through that contributes to why so many are going through hard times, right? And the idea is for us who come from other places who ourselves have gone through hard times through different strategies or different mechanisms should go there and have a better understanding. Also, there is an awareness that if someone is leaving Jamaica or Nigeria to go somewhere, they are representing, and I think Robin Morgan said as well, they're representing the kind of like rich, active class of people who can do that. So if you were to go back to their lands, there are plenty of poor Nigerians and Jamaicans who obviously can't do that, right? And that would represent that nation's oppressed or held down or whatever it might be people group that might be somewhat similar to some of the challenging places that Americans go through, right? But once again, there are still well-to-do Americans, and you see those parallels. But like you said, you have left your country to go somewhere. While you have met people who have been somewhere. Go ahead, but I think someone wanted to say something. Did someone jump in?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm just land my plane here. But it kind of goes back to the point that Brother Pam was saying, like, hey, if you may come from a poor neighborhood from wherever you come to America. Hey, let's come together and exchange these ideas and you show me something, I show you something, and you take that back to the country that you just left. Like you just said, it might be poor, it might not be a representation of who you are when you got here, but you left that your hometown or country or whatever to better yourself. Hey, let's exchange these ideas, and if you decide to go back to your home country, now you can go back and build where you came from. So, like I said,
Exactly.
I think the brother kind of took it. I guess it's his delivery, but I was getting what he was saying. Like, hey, let's come over here.
Let me add to. I actually think so. The thing is, I actually think what you're saying is a good idea in the sense of, let's just say, put it this way, right? There is a resource in America and a resource in Africa and a resource in Caribbean, and they can be synchronized. So the best way to think about it is you have Chinese American and mainland Chinese and Chinese Australian, and they managed to set up Chinatown where they are importing stuff from their country to put into a particular base in another country to facilitate their own people as well as people who are interested in that particular expression, right? Well, those things can happen where African Americans have industries that they can do, and whenever they're trying to find something that might be easily accessed or whatever it might be, there are people who they can work with, either Jamaicans or Africans, where there is some kind of common goal where that trade can be easier. For example, we watched documentaries about in your country, the Koreans have a hold on the black hair business. I think Chris Rock did a documentary, and very similar to here in the UK, we have the Indians have it, where black women's hair is like monopolized by Asian groups, and those unfortunately those Asian groups don't have the black women's best interests at heart, especially not sharing the economical wealth or whatever. So it's more taking the money out of the black community and piling it to Asian community, but not even respectfully, right? So we're saying that, well, we want to network with Caribbeans and Africans and Americans in a positive way and create that triangle where trade works and the stuff we're actually making benefits us. And there is a kind of like circling of the wealth and ideas and respect to benefit black as a whole. Does that make sense, family?
Makes perfect sense. It's a very, very well said, very put together solution.
Unity. That's what I hear from it. It's effectively a strategy for unity, and all of these things are possible with the right mindset and right leadership. It's not, again, to dismiss grievances, to dismiss people's real experiences, and to listen and not to listen, but the overarching attitude has to be about how can we collectivize to benefit the whole.
And put the strength and the confidence back into African people of African descent, because that's what they took from us, really. When they took the history and they took the culture, they took our self-esteem and confidence.
So
and we get that
Robin,
self-esteem.
Thank you. I'm just to talk to Jeff at the moment. I'm me personally. I'm in the listening phase, so everything you say is valuable, and I'm going to collect notes. And it seems to be synchronized with what I've heard from other African Americans. And the goal is to find out where the breakdown is, so we can correct it from a campaign standpoint, right? And that's important because the language you guys are using is from a campaign, or a historical a campaign where something went wrong and there is a delineation campaign because of that, right? So now we have a reform campaign. But family, we are actually over time, but we are joined by two relatively new guests, and that is Brother Lev and Brother Jeff. And I understand that in the comment section, people have their own story going on, and maybe we can unpack that another time because, as usual, there's always some kind of new story going down there. But brother Lev and Brother Jeff, would you like to have your kind of last words? And well, in fact, let's everyone have the last words. Well, Brother Pan, do you want to have your last words? And then from Pan, then Musa, then Jeff, then Lev. If that we can do that order.
All right. Thanks for having me up. Usually you attempt to mischaracterize me. You attempted a few times tonight, but overall it's been a positive discussion. For all the foundational Black Americans listening and all the foundational mulatto Americans listening, when you see ICE mass deporting these immigrants out of the U.S., stay out of the way. This has nothing to do with us. Matter of fact, report all potential illegal aliens to ICE. Get them out the paint so you can preserve foundational Black American communities and foundational mulatto American communities. Thanks for having me up.
Brother Musa?
I would say this has been a brilliant discussion. Obviously, it's very complex, it's very nuanced. Sometimes always, yeah, we're getting closer to the truth. We're getting closer to the truth every time we strive to, get the answer. Obviously, we're going to have different perspectives based on our experiences, but the key is to not lose sight of the goal, which is unity. If we can stick to the plan, and we can get there. And if we can get so-called people of African descent, men and women, to get along and to have faith in themselves and each other, create a stronger family. This really happens. Really, all this, the charity starts at home. We get the people on the same page, then we got a chance to turn this around. But thanks for Rap Raven, and you've made some very valid. Everybody on the panel's made some very valid points, and it seems that we have more in knowledge in common than we do, which is against each other. We have more in common than we realize.
Thank you, brother. Now, Brother Jeff.
Again, thanks for letting me up. I agree. We need to have more unity, and as Musa said, we gotta stick to the plan. Rap, for your last comment, you was mentioning these other groups, the Asians and Caribbean, all these other groups. So they come with a plan. They put their differences aside and they stick to the plan, and that's where I think us as African Americans and our African brothers and sisters, we got two agendas. They come over here with a plan, and also they have people tugging at them like, hey, don't fool with them. And the African American that's already here is like, hey, we're welcoming. Hey, let's get together and we can work something out. So we gotta come up with a solid plan and stick to it. And let's kind of weed out some of the decisiveness and the infighting that we have. We'll deal with that on the back end, but we need to have a plan up front, and we got to stick to that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Brother Jeff. And if you could come back for part 2 and part 3, we love that, but only when you get time. Brother Lev, first time and done a great time. So we give you the last word because you're very important. Go ahead, brother.
Well, firstly, just to say again, thank you so much for having me on, and it's been a good opportunity to listen, to learn, to hear, and hopefully contribute. I couldn't agree more with some of the assessments and viewpoints shared, particularly around what Jeff said, unity. But ultimately, what I learned is that fragmentation leads to stagnation, So we need to adopt a different mentality. This isn't unique to the States. This view of in-group, out-group, them and us, it's a global phenomenon. So yeah, let's keep addressing it, keep discussing it, keep learning, and keep up the dialogue. But much appreciated, Raven. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope to see you again as much as you're available. You're always welcome to come back. There's obviously been some conversations in the forums. We'll unpack that. I'm sure we'll have to topic on that wherever it's going. But to everyone else, Black Betterment to all, and to all Black Betterment, and catch you here next week, 10 p.m. Have a good time. Thank you very much. End screen. All right.